LoveLore Library. Chapter 328. After signing an agreement with the manufacturer, Su Rui, Su Wan, and Xiao Qing started renovating the branded bag store that Su Rui, Su Wan, and Xiao Qing created together. When they were registering the brand, Su Wan originally planned on using a high-end and trendy name, but Xiao Qing insisted on using a Chinese style. Mu Qing and Xiang Wan. This name was filled with a strong artistic aura. It didn't match their brand at all, but it had their names on it. On the day of the store's opening, the entire Jolene Street was really lively. The surrounding merchants all came to congratulate them. Even Gu Shuxing took a leave of absence to come and support them. Speaking of which, ever since the awkward confession in the restaurant that day, Gu Shuxing had acted as if nothing had happened. He did what he was supposed to do and would visit the Xiao family when he had nothing to do. He even helped the three of them study the design of the shop together. Even Su Rui was surprised by his behavior. Thankfully, Xiao Qing didn't feel awkward facing Gu Shuxing anymore. There was even one time when the four of them went out to eat and Xiao Qing got drunk. He put his arm around Gu Shuxing's shoulder and said, "Old Gu, I like Yao Shanshan too, but she likes you. Are we going to be brothers or love rivals?" Gu Shuxing was speechless. "You're drunk." Gu Shuxing silently removed Xiao Qing's hand from his shoulder. "Nonsense. I'm not drunk. I'm sober. I know you're a man." "Right, a man." As he spoke, Xiao Qing moved closer to Gu Shuxing. "Wretch." In the end, Miss Xiao vomited all over Dr. Gu. Su Wan watched silently as Gu Shuxing wiped Xiao Qing's clothes. Male lead, has your bottom line been refreshed again? This was a sad story. For the first time, Su Wan couldn't stand it anymore. Damn. I'm in charge of breaking up the CP. But why do I feel so stifled looking at you guys? Wife. At this time, Su Rui held Su Wan's waist with one hand and softly said in her ear, "Look at how drunk Xiao Qing is. Let Gu Shuxing bring him home." Su Wan was speechless. "General Su, didn't you say to let nature take its course? Plus, the one drunk was Xiao Qing, not Gu Shuxing. Damn, Dr. Gu doesn't drink. If I can get him drunk, that would be perfect." Su Wan and Su Rui glanced at each other. The two were about to get up when they saw Gu Shuxing helping the drunk Xiao Qing up. "You guys can go back. I'll take him home." "Ah." Seeing that Gu Shuxing was taking Xiao Qing away, Su Wan shrugged. "Emin. Let nature take its course. I'll bet 50 cents that old Gu will definitely be able to bring the beauty home." Su Rui. "Wife, you are so rich, let's go home." Su Rui pulled Su Wan and the two of them strolled home. This place wasn't far from Su Wan's rented apartment. Although Xiao Qing had accepted his new identity as a woman and told Gu Shuxing everything, neither of them received the notification that the mission had been completed or failed. In other words, there were still a lot of possibilities in Xiao Qing's future. 1 year later. Mu Qing Xiang Wan's small brand of bags had a certain reputation and market share in a city. In this year, Su Rui and Su Wan had signed agency agreements with many merchants on Jolene Street. Their own brand stores had also opened on the streets and alleys of a city. Starting from a small store, this was the path to success for a small character. When Su Rui planned on expanding the chain stores outside of a city, something happened to Xiao family. This was the same as the original plot. Xiao Qing's father had left the Xiao family's businesses. His father had passed away early, so the family's businesses were left to Xiao Qing's mother, Jiang Min, to manage. But now, Xiao Qing's uncles had allied with outsiders to take over all of Xiao family's businesses. This was something they had planned for a long time just to catch Jiang Min unprepared. Now that the company was in danger and seeing that her late husband's businesses were about to be destroyed in her hands, Jiang Min's old illness relapsed and she was hospitalized. After Jiang Min was hospitalized, Xiao family's situation worsened. Back when Su Rui and Su Wan opened the chain stores, Xiao Qing had provided all the funds. Now that something big had happened to his family, Su Wan and Su Rui discussed it and decided to sell the stores. This way, they could help Xiao Qing take back Xiao family's businesses with the funds. Xiao Qing shook his head a bit bitterly after knowing their plans. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Once something happened to Xiao family, all the business partners that he had a good relationship with turned against him. Now that his family was empty, even if Su Rui and Su Wan sold the stores, what could they do with the millions? Xiao Qing, do you trust me? Seeing Xiao Qing's depressed mood, Su Wan couldn't help but walk in front of him and stare into his eyes. Trust me. I will use this money to help you take back Xiao family. Financial warfare was definitely Su Wan's forte. Xiao Wan. Xiao Qing looked at Su Wan. He couldn't remember what Su Wan looked like in the past. Right. She had changed. Everyone was changing. But everyone was slowly getting better. Their days would get better and better. I trust you. Xiao Qing held Su Wan's hands tightly. Xiao Wan, I'll leave the company to you and Xiao Bai. I trust you guys. Don't worry. Su Rui also couldn't help but say, stay in the hospital and take care of Aunt Jiang. Once she's discharged, get ready to celebrate. Okay. City A Hospital. Gu Shuxing finished a day of surgeries. He hurriedly ate and then came to the inpatient department. Jiang Min's ward was really quiet. Jiang Min had just gotten an 4 drip and was asleep. Xiao Qing sat by the bed, his expression terrible. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Xiao Qing subconsciously turned to look at Gu Shuxing's emotionless eyes. Old Gu, you're here. How's Aunt Jiang? Emin, pretty good. Xiao Qing forced a smile at Gu Shuxing. Seeing his tired and haggard expression, Gu Shuxing couldn't help but look down. I'm resting tomorrow. I'll take care of her here tonight. Go home and rest. Otherwise, you won't be able to take it. I'm fine. Xiao Qing stood up and glanced at Gu Shuxing. Do you have a cigarette? I want to go out and smoke. It's best if you don't smoke. Gu Shuxing walked in front of Xiao Qing and took out a piece of chocolate from his white coat. Eat this. Xiao Qing was speechless. So Dr. Gu, are you cool on the outside? Why do you have chocolate in your pocket every day? Xiao Qing took the chocolate hesitantly. At this time, Gu Shuxing suddenly grabbed his fingertips and took out a check from his other pocket, placing it in Xiao Qing's palm. My mom told me to bring this to you. This is all she has. Xiao Qing looked down and saw the 8 digits on the check. He froze. Only Aunt Gu's. Hearing Xiao Qing's question, Gu Shuxing hesitated. There's mine too. It's just a token of my appreciation. He wouldn't say that he took out all of his assets for her. There was no need for that. Old Gu, this isn't all of your assets, right? Xiao Qing suddenly asked half-jokingly. Gu Shuxing's gaze flickered. Dr. Gu, who wasn't good at lying, immediately revealed a flaw. As it turned out, it really was all of his assets. Xiao Qing's hands trembled a bit. Actually, I don't need this much. Just take it. I don't mean anything else. Gu Shuxing felt his resistance and immediately smiled warmly at him. Didn't you say that we're brothers? Shouldn't brothers go through fire and water for each other? What Yan Mubai and Su Wan can do for you, I can too. Just treat it as help between brothers. he didn't need to feel burdened. Ha, old Gu, you're really, Xiao Qing bit his lips and held the check in his hands. Really? You're so nice. What if I fall in love with you one day? Hearing Xiao Qing's words, Gu Shuxing lifted his brows and revealed a smile that wasn't a smile. If that day really comes, if I'm not married and if you're not married, we'll make do. Xiao Qing froze and then couldn't help but smile and nod. Chapter 329. 2 years later, after Xiao family got through the crisis safely, Xiao Qing entered the Xiao family and became the general manager of the company. As for Su Rui and Su Wan, they didn't stay in the Xiao Corporation. Instead, they returned to Jiolin Street and started from the beginning. Ever since he entered the business world, Xiao Qing came into contact with a completely unfamiliar world. Thankfully, he had his mother's support as well as Su Rui and Su Wan's help. In the business world, Xiao Qing finally stabilized his position as the general manager. Right now, Xiao Qing was a new successful woman in a city's business world. Many people even knew that this successful woman seemed to like beautiful women. Apparently, she had been chasing after another company's vice president, Yao Shanshan. Yao Shanshan was speechless at Xiao Qing's persistent pursuit. In the beginning, she was suspicious, but then, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now, Yao Shanshan and Xiao Qing had become best friends who could talk about anything. Shanshan, just be with me. Today, Xiao Qing couldn't help but lean against Yao Shanshan's body after leaving the beauty salon and arriving at Yao Shanshan's villa. Feeling the familiar fragrance, Yao Shanshan narrowed her eyes and pushed Xiao Qing to the wall. Then she pressed herself against him. Xiao Qingqing, you smell so good. Ha, of course. Do you want to try kissing me? Xiao Qing winked at Yao Shanshan. Yao Shanshan really pressed her red lips on Xiao Qing's face. Xiao Qing, do you feel anything? Xiao Qing was speechless. If I really have feelings for you, it doesn't matter if I'm a man or a woman. Yao Shanshan suddenly smiled, her eyes still locked onto Xiao Qing's. Your eyes tell me that you're hiding a lot of secrets. She also told me that you actually don't have feelings for me. Yao Shanshan always thought that she was good at reading people. To be honest, she had been overseas for so many years and was open-minded about sexual orientation. If they really had feelings for each other, it didn't matter if they were a man or a woman. But she could feel that Xiao Qing seemed to really like his appearance in the beginning. But that was it. You can't look at a person's appearance forever. You need someone who truly loves you, cares for you, treats you well, and will stand by your side no matter what. That person isn't me. Yao Shanshan was actually really calm when she said this. She knew someone had been waiting for Xiao Qing for a very long time. Actually, I'm very envious of you. Yao Shanshan turned around and sighed with a smile. Gu Shuxing treats you really well and he's infatuated. Don't wait until you lose him to regret it. Xiao Qing, women can't miss out on anything. Yao Shanshan had missed Gu Shuxing, but she had missed him. It turned out that she really couldn't turn back, because that person wouldn't wait for her in the same place. But now, Gu Shuxing stood there, waiting for Xiao Qing to turn around. As long as she is willing, she will find that the best has been standing there waiting for her, never wavering. This was what Yao Shanshan envied the most. Hearing Yao Shanshan's words, Xiao Qing froze. In the past few years, her feelings were actually empty. She firmly believed that she still liked women. She persistently pursued Yao Shanshan, but in the end, the two of them became best friends. Perhaps he had been a woman for too long that Xiao Qing even started to forget that he used to be a man. In the beginning, he would scream in panic when he saw blood. Now, he could easily distinguish the brands and quality of women's personal products. In the beginning, he didn't know how to wear underwear. Now, he could wear the latest styles of major brands to fill his wardrobe. In the beginning, he couldn't walk in high heels. Now, he could walk to work in high heels every day. In the past few years, he had been constantly changing. After leaving Yao Shanshan's home, Xiaoqing didn't drive. He walked on the streets aimlessly. Unknowingly, he came to Su Wan's home. Sister Xiaoqing. Su Wan and Su Rui had just returned from Jolene Street. The two were covered in dust and they were still holding the fresh vegetables they bought from the market. Hearing Su Wan's voice, Xiaoqing snapped out of his trance. You guys came back really early today. The store isn't busy today. Let's go upstairs. At night, Su Wan busied herself in the kitchen. Xiaoqing looked at the apartment that hadn't changed much compared to 3 years ago. He couldn't help but ask Su Rui, with your abilities, it's a waste of your talents to open a small store in the wholesale market. As long as you guys want to, you can become millionaires in minutes. Now that Xiaoqing had stepped into the business world, he had enough understanding of finance. Only then did he know how Su Wan and Su Rui had saved his company back then. That was the most classic battle in a city's business world. Even now, there were still many headhunting companies trying to find out about them. You can't earn enough money. Su Rui handed Xiaoqing a can of beer. Life is short. If you can fight with the person you love, then all of your days will be meaningful. People in the business world were deceiving each other and the office was filled with smoke. It really was better for the two of them to open a store and live happily ever after. Saying this, Su Rui sat on the other side of the sofa and looked at Xiaoqing. Xiaoqing, what about you? Have you thought about the future? Future, Xiaoqing froze. I don't know. I don't know what I should do in the future. If you meet a good man, then marry him. At this time, Su Wan walked out of the kitchen with hot dishes. She said while walking, back then, I never thought that I would be together with Mubai. Life is like this. It's full of unknowns and unpredictability. Sister Xiaoqing, if you meet a good man, then you have to grab hold of him. Don't be overcautious and lose the opportunity. Xiaoqing smiled in relief hearing Su Wan's words. Speaking of the past, it did feel like a dream. In the end, was everything about Xiaoqing a dream or was the current Xiaoqing a dream? Today, Xiaoqing got drunk again. Seeing Xiaoqing lying on the table unresponsive, Su Wan called Gu Shuxing without hesitation. By the time Gu Shuxing came to the apartment, Xiaoqing had fallen asleep on the table. Gu Shuxing couldn't help but smile seeing him lying there without a care for his image. As expected, after all these years, she was still the same. How could he feel at ease without him taking care of her? Old Gu, I'll leave Xiaoqing to you. Su Wan and Su Rui sighed in relief after handing Xiaoqing over to Gu Shuxing. The next morning, before Su Wan even woke up, she heard the news that the mission had failed from the headquarters. Failed. For the first time, she felt that failure was a happy thing. Su Wan slowly turned her body over and leaned into Su Rui's embrace. The two people hugged each other and fell into a deep sleep again. At this time, Gu family. Gu Shuxing, come out. I promise I won't beat you to death. Voila. The bathroom door was pushed open. Gu Shuxing walked out wearing a white towel while drying his hair. Ching, you're awake. Awake my ass. You pervert. You're despicable and shameless. Despicable and lowly. What did you do to me? Xiaoqing sat on the bed and used the blanket to cover his naked body. He glared at Gu Shuxing angrily. This is my first time. First time. First time in both my past and present lives. How could I just pass by like that? I didn't feel anything at all. This didn't make sense. This wasn't written in the erotic novels. Female lead, where's your moral integrity? Ahem. Gu Shuxing immediately coughed hearing Xiao Qing's words, his expression changing. Last night actually, I didn't do anything. I don't care. Anyways, you need to be responsible for me in the future. Xiao Qing angrily interrupted Gu Shuxing's words. Then he threw a pillow at Gu Shuxing. You, turn around. I'm going to change. Gu Shuxing was speechless. From now on, old Gu became his husband. Chapter 330. In November, Liao City was covered in white snow and the north wind whistled. City center, Yin family's courtyard. Shunning wore a thick cotton-padded jacket and walked out of the kitchen. She jogged the entire way while holding a warm food box in her arms. Seeing her energetic appearance, the maids in the inner courtyard couldn't help but whisper. It was the coldest time of the year and Shunning went to make soup for the eldest madam again. Eldest madam probably wouldn't be able to make it through the winter. The servant girls of the Yin estate sighed endlessly when they spoke of this woman with a bitter life. The one in the courtyard was the eldest miss of Su family's residence. She had studied abroad before and learned from abroad. In the end, she still ended up like this. How many women had a good time in the Yin residence? Had a good time. Sigh. Don't just Yin family's courtyard. Didn't the entire Liao city belong to the Yin family? Ahem. Shunning had just returned to the side courtyard when she heard coughing coming from inside. Eldest madam. Shunning couldn't help but speed up, running into the room in a few steps. The stove was still burning. On the pear wood-carved bed, a woman wearing a blue qipao was bending over and coughing non-stop. Eldest madam, are you okay? The soup is here. Drink a few mouthfuls and your throat will feel better. Shunning carefully patted the woman's back and then opened the food box, revealing the nourishing soup that was still steaming. Put it down. Su Wan's throat was a bit hoarse. She looked up at her personal maid Shunning and then waved at her. Shunning, come over. Yes. Shunning carefully and respectfully walked over to Su Wan. Su Wan leaned over and whispered a few words in Shunning's ears. Shunning's expression immediately turned terrified. Eldest madam, this, Su Wan shook her head at Shunning. Do as I say. Don't let the eldest madam find out. If she does, don't admit that I told you to buy it. Remember. This servant remembers. Yes. Su Wan didn't worry about Shunning. After all, the original owner brought her out of the Su family. Shunning, it's been hard on you these 2 years. Don't worry. The bitter days will pass. I won't let the Yin family's people off, especially the women in the backyard. Seeing the ruthlessness in Su Wan's eyes, Shunning froze. But soon, she couldn't help but worry for Su Wan. Eldest madam, your body, it's fine. I have my ways. You can leave now. Yes. Shunning left worriedly. Su Wan sat on the bed and looked at the hot soup on the table. She couldn't help but sneer. Eldest young mistress is weak and sickly. Sick my ass. He was obviously poisoned by someone. Speaking of Yin family's first madam, she was definitely a ruthless person. She actually wanted to use this method to poison the original owner. If Su Wan didn't enter the mission at this time, the original owner would have definitely died before New Year's Eve. He couldn't accept this reality nor could he forgive this fickle woman. Therefore, on a dark and windy night, Yin Beiyue barged into Su Wan's room drunk and wanted to force himself on her. The original owner didn't think that not only did her lover not believe her, he even wanted to humiliate her. Naturally, she struggled and screamed with all her might. Her voice startled Yin Beiyue, who was on the sickbed. Seeing his brother's actions, Yin Beiyue naturally wanted to help Su Wan. In the end, the three of them pulled and the sickly Yin Beiyue was pushed over. His head hit the corner of the table and he died all right. This was really a ridiculous story. After Yin Beiyue died, the eldest madam thought that Su Wan's behavior was improper. She seduced her brother-in-law and caused her husband's death. What kind of logic is this? Therefore, the eldest madam hated Su Wan. On the other hand, the male lead accidentally caused his brother's death. This made him feel guilty. From then on, he decided to treat Su Wan as his most respected sister-in-law and take good care of her. You sure changed quickly, because Yin Beiyue took special care of Su Wan. The eldest madam thought that Su Wan still had ambitions for her second son. Back then, it was the eldest madam, Yao Baiqian, who came up with the idea of letting Su Wan marry Yin Beiyue. Because she had discussed it with her brother, she wanted her niece, Yao Ruofang, to marry into the Yin family and become the general's wife. How could she let another woman be her daughter-in-law? Half a year after Yin Beiyue's death, Yin Beiyue listened to his parents' arrangements and married the eldest miss of the Yao family, who was also his cousin, Yao Ruofang. Yao Ruofang had admired Yin Beiyue since she was young. Naturally, she was obedient to him after they got married. Unfortunately, Yin Beiyue, who felt that he had suffered emotional trauma, didn't like his lovely wife. Chapter 331. As this world's cannon fodder, the original body, Su Wan, had passed away before New Year's Eve. The day she left, it was snowing heavily. Yin Beige rushed back from the military camp, but he only managed to see Su Wan one last time. On her deathbed, Su Wan revealed her feelings to Yin Beige once again. Yin Beige finally believed that she never betrayed him. She had always loved him from the bottom of her heart. Unfortunately, everything was too late. After Su Wan's death, Yin Beige couldn't recover from the setback. During a battle with bandits, Yin Beige was heavily injured because he was distracted and fell into the sea. Yin Beige was saved by the innocent and kind fisherwoman, Guan Li. Under Guan Li's meticulous care, Yin Beige's injuries gradually got better. However, because his head was hit, he lost most of his memories. He didn't remember his identity, nor did he remember other people. He only remembered that there was a beautiful figure in his mind that he couldn't get rid of. That figure was blurry. It was a girl's figure, and that girl could sing a really nice song. Yin Beige muddle-headedly stayed in the fishing village until one night, when he woke up in the middle of the night and heard that familiar song. Yin Beige followed the voice and walked over in a daze. He saw a girl singing softly by the sea under the bright moonlight. That day, Guanli wore a thin white gown and her black hair fluttered. She stared at the sea and sang quietly. Her voice was filled with sorrow. It was this song. Yin Beige stared at Guanli's back in a daze. Her figure could actually gradually overlap with the figure in his heart. It really resembled her. Was it her? Yin Beige didn't know if Guanli and the girl in his mind were the same person, but from that moment onwards, Guanli's position in his heart was different from others. That's right. Guanli was the female lead. In reality, she was Su Wan's half-sister. Back then, Su Wan's birth mother, Tian Menghua, was also born in this small fishing village. At that time, she, her husband, and their newborn daughter, Guangli, lived in poverty. Until one day, Su family's fleet came here to collect goods. Master Su fell in love with Tian Menghua at first sight. Tian Menghua, who yearned for the big city and a wealthy life, left the small fishing village. She abandoned her husband and daughter and became Madame Su. Not long after, she gave birth to Master Su. When Su Wan was a child, Tian Menghua would occasionally think of her other daughter. When she missed her, Tian Menghua would sing the folk song she learned in the small fishing village. Later on, Su Wan naturally also learned this song. Especially after Tian Menghua passed away due to depression, Su Wan would hum this folk song when she was alone in a foreign country. At that time, Yin Beige often heard Su Wan sing this song, so he naturally had a deep impression of it. Therefore, as a cannon fodder, Su Wan's existence and death was only to help the male lead and female lead. 2 months later, Yin Beige was found and forcefully taken away by the Yin family. Because Yin Beige's identity was exposed, after he left, the entire fishing village was massacred by bandits. Guangli escaped death. She had always thought that Yin Beige's people killed the people in the village. Therefore, she escaped to Liao City and mixed into the Yin family to be a servant girl, wanting to assassinate Yin Beige for revenge. Right now, Yin Beige had recovered his memory. After recovering his memory, he seemed to have forgotten about Guang Li's existence. Until one time, Yin Beige got drunk during a banquet at the Yin residence. Guang Li took the chance to assassinate him, but Yin Beige's adjutant, Lu Anbo, caught her on the spot. The general and madam were naturally furious about Guang Li's assassination. According to the rules of the general's residence, she should be executed. But right now, Yin Beige suddenly said that he liked Guang Li and wanted to marry her as a concubine. That's right, this was the annual melodramatic drama of a sadomasochistic relationship that took place in the Yin family's mansion. In this drama, other than the glorious cannon fodder Yin Beiyue and Su Wan, everyone else more or less played an important role. Yin family's madams fought in the dark, Yao Ruofang and Guang Li fought each other in love, the 3 masters of the Yin family fought for power, and Guang Li and Yin Beige's love-hate relationship. In short, this drama was really interesting. Plus, there were 2 important male supporting characters in this world. One was Yin Beige's adjutant, Lu Anbo. He fell in love with Guang Li at first sight. He was a warm and affectionate male supporting character. Lu Anbo had always liked Guang Li and helped her silently. In the end, he even lost his life for her and Yin Beige. As for the other male supporting character, it was Yin family's hedonistic third master, Yin Minji. Other than being a hedonistic son, Yin Minji was also an evil and crazy maniac. When Guang Li first entered the Yin family, he often teased her. Facing third master Yin's teasing, everyone else silently endured it. Only Guang Li dared to resist. The more she resisted, the more interested third master Yin was. After doing this many times, third master Yin actually felt like he found his true love. Thus, the hedonistic young master of a generation became a bitter supporting male character. Su Wan rubbed her aching head. Right now, Yin Beige was taking Lu Anbo to fight against the bandits outside the city. He wouldn't be able to come back anytime soon. Therefore, if Su Rue was Lu Anbo, then she would have to wait a few days for him. But, what if Su Rue was third master Yin? Nanny. This really became the ethical drama of the year, eldest madam. Su Wan was thinking when Shunning, who she ordered to leave not long ago, suddenly hurried back to the room. Shunning, why did you come back so quickly? Su Wan looked at Shunning, a bit surprised. She had just ordered Shunning to go to the great medical workshop next door to get medicine for her. This girl came back too quickly, huh? After all, Yin residence was really big. As the widowed eldest madam, Su Wan could only stay in the side courtyard. It took a long time to walk from the side courtyard to the back door of Yin residence. Eldest madam, third master is here. Shunning's tone was filled with endless fear right now. Originally, she had planned on leaving through the back door according to Su Wan's orders. Who knew that she would see the gloomy third master Yin before she even walked out of the back courtyard? Nanny. Third master, you're already perverted and scary enough when you don't look gloomy usually. You're about to make people pee in their pants right now, okay? Yin Residence's maids and maids weren't afraid of the eldest madam or the second madam. It was the third master Yin who hadn't gotten married yet. Not only was the third master famous for being a playboy in Liao City, but he also had many perverted tricks up his sleeves. Throughout the year, he had defiled and forced dozens of innocent girls to death. In short, once the third master left the street, you wouldn't even see a hen on the entire street in Liao City. Every family with a daughter would guard against fire, theft, and the third master day and night. After Shunning married into the Yin family, due to Su Wan's special identity, the two had been living in the side courtyard. Therefore, she rarely saw the third master. Take me to see the eldest madam. At that time, third master didn't even look up and just ordered coldly. Hearing Yin Minji's words, Shunning's legs went soft. But thinking that this was the Yin family and her young mistress was the Yin family's eldest young mistress, with the second young master's help, even if this third master did something stupid, he couldn't do anything to her, right? Therefore, Shunning obediently returned to the side courtyard. At this time, Shunning entered the room and immediately reported to Su Wan in a panic. Before she finished speaking, an extremely cold voice came from behind her. Get out! Shunning was speechless. Eldest madam, save me. Ha! The moment they entered the room, Yao Baiqian coughed subconsciously. Mother! Seeing Yao Baiqian's dignified figure, Su Wan immediately retracted her hands nervously and struggled to get off the bed. Okay. You don't have to come down and greet me with your current condition. Seeing Su Wan's sickly face, as well as the fear and respect in her eyes, Yao Baiqian waved her hands magnanimously. She didn't have much time left anyways. Yao Baiqian didn't want to argue with Su Wan. Yo, sister-in-law's here. Su Rui turned his head and glanced at Yao Baiqian and Zhenlan. Yao Baiqian felt like she was being stared at by a venomous snake after his glance. This was definitely a misconception. Yao Baiqian focused. When she looked at him again, she saw him smiling at Zhenlan. I haven't seen you for a while. Sister Zhenlan has gotten prettier. Although Zhenlan was Yao Baiqian's personal maid, she was only 27 in reality. She was only 1 year older than Yin Minji. Yao Baiqian, the mistress of the household, naturally had to be outstanding in all aspects. Not only was Zhenlan efficient, but she also knew how to read people's expressions. She was also good at needlework. Most importantly, she had a beautiful face. Speaking of which, this was also Yao Baiqian's most brilliant point. She placed the most capable and beautiful servant girl in the residence by her side to serve her. This way, she didn't need to worry about her man being seduced by those useless maids. A trace of fear flashed through Zhenlan's face, but she quickly calmed down. Thank you, Third Master, for your compliment. Third Master, you've become more and more handsome lately. Oh. Su Rui lifted his brows. Sister Zhenlan, you sure have a sweet mouth. No wonder brother, cough, sister-in-law really trusts you. I'm afraid. Zhenlan's expression turned even uglier. She subconsciously clenched her fists and lowered her head, not daring to meet the third master's gaze. Ha! Yao Baiqian smiled faintly. Third brother, although it's broad daylight, Xiao Wan is Beiyue's widow after all. People will gossip if you stay here for too long. If there's nothing special, you shouldn't come to this side courtyard in the future. Xiao Wan's body is weak and she's seriously ill. If she accidentally spreads her illness to you, it'll be troublesome. Sister-in-law, you're right. Actually, I'm here today. Su Rui's gaze shifted and he looked at Yao Baiqian. I really have good intentions. I'm here to treat Xiao Wan's illness. You? Yin Minji knew how to treat illnesses. What kind of joke was this? Yao Baiqian wanted to say something but Su Rui didn't give her the chance. Of course, I naturally don't know how to treat illnesses, but I recently got to know a foreign doctor, Mr. Smith. He's a doctor from the church. I heard that he's really good and many tuberculosis patients were cured by him. I think that since Xiaowan is so young and the Yin family can afford it, why don't we ask Mr. Smith to treat Xiaowan? Sister-in-law, what do you think? Nonsense. Yao Baiqian panicked hearing Su Rui's words, but she still put on a righteous expression. Those foreigners aren't reliable at all. They want to cut open people's stomachs at the slightest provocation. People who aren't of the same race must have different intentions. Third brother, how can you believe what they say? Plus, your elder brother hates dealing with foreigners. Minji, don't ever mention this again. Saying this, Yao Baiqian flung her sleeves angrily. Keep acting. Su Rui sneered inside. You're clearly afraid that people will find out the real reason why Su Wan is sick. What's the point of acting so much? Although he hated Yao Baiqian to the bone, Su Rui still revealed a knowing expression. Sister-in-law, you're right. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Saying this, Su Rui walked outside in large strides. When he passed by Zhenlan, he winked at her. When he passed by Shunning, he lifted his brows, seemingly wanting to touch Shunning's face. The girl was so scared that she immediately fell to the ground. Ha! Seeing this, Su Rui seemed to be in a great mood. He laughed and walked out. After his figure disappeared, Su Wan looked hopefully at Yao Baiqian. Mother, Xiaowan won't be able to live for long. Shunning, I know what I'm doing. Rest well. Chapter 333. After Yao Baiqian left with Zhenlan, Shunning stumbled and ran to Su Wan's bedside. Her lips trembled as she looked at Su Wan in panic. Eldest madam, you have to save me. I don't want to die. I just want to stay by your side for the rest of my life. Okay, don't be scared. Su Wan patted Shunning's head. I'll help you. Don't worry. You have to remember to do what I tell you to do. I'll naturally ensure your safety. Shunning lifted her face and saw the light in Su Wan's eyes. She bit her lips and slowly nodded. I understand. Eldest madam, don't worry. Okay, then go do what you need to do. Tell others not to disturb me. I'm going to sleep for a bit. Su Wan waved her hands and Shunning immediately left obediently. After she left, Su Wan put down the curtains on the wooden bed and sat cross-legged on the bed, quietly adjusting her breathing. When she was in Luanfeng country, she inherited the Princess Royal's memories. Naturally, she learned Luanfeng country's martial arts. The Princess Royal learned martial arts for women and one of them was to regulate internal breathing. Su Wan wanted to take this opportunity to regulate the aura Su Rui inserted into her body. This would help her slowly recover her broken body. By the time Su Wan opened her eyes again, it was already dusk. Her forehead was covered in sweat, but her body had a bit more strength than before. Lifting the curtains, Su Wan planned on getting off the bed to find a towel to wipe her forehead. At this time, someone suddenly pushed open a small crack in the door. Su Wan narrowed her eyes and pretended not to see anything. She slowly got off the bed. But after a few steps, she lost her footing and fell to the ground. Sister-in-law. At this time, the door was pushed open and a small and thin figure hurriedly ran in. Su Wan lifted her eyes and met a pair of clear and innocent eyes that were abnormally nervous. Sister-in-law, are you okay? The young man's voice was soft and pleasant to listen to. Su Wan smiled weakly at the young man. Bei Chao, why are you here again? If concubine who finds out, she'll whip you again. Yin Beichao, the son of Yin Shun's concubine, Hu Huiwe. He was the third child in the family. Yin Beichao's expression darkened. She only knows how to watch the show and beat people up. She's either hitting and scolding me all day. She's not my mother. Sister-in-law, how about you be my mother in the future? Su Wan, young man, you are really naive. Silly child. Eldest sister-in-law is eldest sister-in-law, and mother is mother. This is different. Saying this, Su Wan used Yin Beichao's support to slowly stand up. Sister-in-law is weak and sickly. Your mother doesn't want you to visit me for your own good. She's afraid that I'll pass the sickness to you. Humph. Yin Beichao's gaze darkened and he weakly snorted. It's not because of this. She's just afraid of first mother and second mother, and Yin Beichao lifted his childish face and looked at Su Wan angrily. Sister-in-law, Yu Xiao in second sister-in-law's courtyard is the worst. She told everyone that you're a vixen who seduced second brother. She also said that eldest brother died because of you. How could she do this? Sister-in-law, you clearly didn't do anything. When eldest brother was still alive, you guys treated me the best. At that time, eldest brother said that you were the best person in the world. But why are they bullying you now that eldest brother isn't here? If eldest brother was still alive, he definitely wouldn't let anyone bully you. Su Wan froze hearing Yin Beichao's words. Yin Beiyue. In the original body's memory, the Yin family's eldest master who passed away was really gentle and considerate. He was also talented. Unfortunately, the heavens were jealous of geniuses. Such a handsome and outstanding man died young. He really was a good man. Unfortunately, the original body didn't meet him first but Yin Beichao. Sigh. Su Wan sighed softly. The world of adults was just so complicated and helpless. In the Yin family, how many people dared to say that they were innocent and had a clear conscience? Other than the original body, the cleanest and most sincere person in this residence was Yin Beichao. He was a 13-year-old child with a pure heart. Yin Beichao's mother, Hu Huiwe, was originally a pillar of an opera troupe in Liao City. Once, she was invited to celebrate Yin Shun's birthday. Yin Shun took a liking to her at first glance. Later on, he naturally left the beauty in the Yin residence to be his concubine. As a warlord in charge of a territory, Yin Shun was a ruthless and temperamental person. He once brought 8 concubines into the Yin family but only Hu Huiwe was still alive and well. She even successfully gave birth to a son for Yin Shun. This son didn't come easily. Although Yin Beichao was a bastard son in the Yin family and wasn't favored, Hu Huiwe had to rely on her son for the rest of her life. The more Hu Huiwe hoped that her son could surpass the First Lady's 2 sons, the more her son failed to live up to her expectations. He couldn't learn anything. Therefore, beating, scolding, and punishing became a common occurrence in Yin Beichao's life. When the original body had just married into the Yin family, there was a time when she saw Hu Huiwe whipping Yin Beichao. The kind-hearted her naturally went up to stop her. Knowing that Hu Huiwe was punishing her son because of his studies, Su Wan suggested that she could tutor Yin Beichao. At that time, Yin Beiyue was still around and Su Wan had a status in the Yin family. Hu Huiwe knew that Su Wan came back from overseas and knew a lot. Naturally, she was happy to let Yin Beichao get closer to her elder brother and sister-in-law. It was also at that time that the original owner and Yin Beichao formed a sibling relationship. Although Su Wan was left to fend for herself in the side courtyard due to Yin Beiyue's death, Yin Beichao would still visit her every now and then. Beichao, why are you here today? Su Wan found a handkerchief and wiped her face. Then she turned to look at Yin Beichao behind her. Yin Beichao revealed a hesitant expression. Sister-in-law, you told me and elder brother about your experiences overseas. Elder brother said that it's a completely different world from here. I want to go out and take a look but, my mother won't let me. Yin Beichao's gaze dimmed. I don't know what to do. If I go find my father and tell him that I want to study overseas like second brother, will he agree? Study overseas. Hearing Yin Beichao's words, Su Wan looked down. In the plot she knew, Yin Beichao did go overseas and he never came back. Of course, this shouldn't have happened now. It should have happened 3 years later. At that time, Guanli would have entered the Yin family. The fights in the Yin family's backyard gradually escalated. Second Master Yin Qingma and General Yin Shun fought for power. Second Master's wife, Buningshan, and Yao Baiqian were also fighting to the death. At this time, Hu Huiyue's affair with an entertainer was exposed. Therefore, Yin Shun sent people to send Yin Beichao out of the country and then drowned Hu Huiyue. Chapter 334. Hearing Yin Beichao's words and knowing that he wanted to study abroad, Su Wan fell silent. Beichao, don't tell your father about this. Su Wan's thoughts spun and she grabbed Yin Beichao's hand. Your second brother will be back in a few days. Tell him your thoughts secretly. If he loves you, he'll naturally help you tell him. The doctor won't stop you as long as your second brother says it. Do you understand? Yin Beichao immediately nodded. Understood. Beichao remembers. Thank you, sister-in-law. Silly child. Su Wan patted Yin Beichao's shoulder softly. If you can really go out, then study outside and learn more things. By then, sister-in-law might not even be here anymore, but she'll be watching you from above. Sister-in-law. Yin Beichao's eyes immediately welled up with tears. Sister-in-law, wait for me. I'm going overseas to study medicine. Wait for me to come back. I'll treat you and take care of you until you're old and dead. Seeing the young man's determined gaze, Su Wan couldn't help but smile. Okay, good child. I'll wait for you. Okay. Yin Beichao nodded and then rubbed his eyes. He pestered Su Wan to tell him about things overseas. Up until it was time for dinner did Yin Beichao reluctantly leave. Not long after he left, Shunning came over with a food container for dinner. The piping hot dinner looked, smelled, and tasted great. Maybe Yao Baiqian thought that Su Wan was going to die soon so she didn't purposely take away the food in the courtyard. Her daily food and clothing were the same as the other young madams in the courtyard. Eldest madam. Shunning first put down the food box when she entered the room. Then she moved closer to Su Wan and carefully took out a few packets of medicinal powder. I bought everything and went to a few big pharmacies. No one will suspect anything. Hearing Shunning's words, Su Wan nodded. She didn't tell Shunning to buy them separately, but this girl knew to buy them separately. She was a teachable talent. Thank you for your hard work. Shunning, prepare for a few days. Go to the third master's residence in a few days. What? She widened her eyes and knelt on the ground with a pale face. Eldest madam, eldest miss, this servant followed you from Su family. This servant has always been loyal to you. Eldest miss, please don't disregard this servant. This servant is willing to do anything. Eldest madam, please don't give this servant to third master. The emotional Shunning was a bit incoherent. Seeing how scared she was, Su Wan held her forehead. Okay, Shunning, calm down. Do you think I would harm you? Calm down first. Tonight, you'll stay here on duty. When night falls, you'll naturally understand what I mean. Could it be that eldest young mistress had other intentions? Hearing Su Wan's words, Shunning sat on the ground and carelessly wiped the tears on her face. Seeing that Su Wan was going to get up to eat, she hurriedly got up and helped Su Wan off the bed. The cold night was endless. After midnight, the entire Yin family's courtyard had sunk into silence. Su Wan's room was still lit by the dim oil lamp. Shunning sat by Su Wan's bed and stared at the candlelight, feeling a bit drowsy. At this time, there was a soft sound coming from the door. Shunning blinked and was about to get up when the candlelight in the room suddenly shook violently. Then a tall and slender figure appeared in front of her. This was Third Master. Shunning covered her mouth in shock. Her eyes were filled with terror. "You're here." At this time, Su Wan slowly opened her eyes and carelessly lifted the blanket on her. "Shunning, help me up." "Ah. Oh. Shunning snapped out of her trance and turned to the side, trembling a bit. Just as she was about to help Su Wan up, a pair of large hands grabbed her. "Let me do it." Su Rui leaned over and carefully helped Su Wan up. His fingers pressed a few times on her pulse. That handsome and cold face involuntarily softened. "Are you feeling better?" "I'm fine." Su Wan smiled and then turned to look at the flabbergasted Shunning. "I don't have much time left. If I'm not here, Shunning definitely won't have a good time in the Yin residence. Third Master, ask the general for her to come to your residence tomorrow and be a servant girl. In the future, after you get a wife, you'll be able to use her." Su Rui's gaze flickered and he stared at Shunning. "Shunning, are you willing to come to my residence?" This servant, Shunning, was a bit hesitant. She had never seen the Third Master be so careful and gentle toward someone. Could it be that the eldest miss and Third Master— No, the eldest miss wasn't that kind of person, but, while Shunning was hesitating, Su Wan started coughing involuntarily again. Cough. Hearing her coughing, Su Rui's gaze turned cold. He placed his hand on Su Wan's back and continuously inserted his internal force into her body. The room fell silent. Shunning also held her breath and didn't dare to speak. She just stared curiously at Su Rui and Su Wan. Cough. A moment later, Su Wan suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. "Ah!" Shunning immediately exclaimed, "Eldest madam, this blood, why is it so black? You're not poisoned, are you?" Shunning wanted to run out in a panic. "This servant will go find Dr. Sun right now. Come back." Su Wan and Su Rui spoke at the same time. Hearing their words, Shunning paused in her footsteps and looked at them with a strange expression. "Ha! You're actually going to find Dr. Sun?" Su Rui smiled coldly at Shunning. Although Sun Zhangyi didn't poison Su Wan, he was bribed by the eldest madam and lied against his conscience. "What's the point of finding him? You want to kill your master. What?" Shunning immediately widened her eyes at Su Wan. "Eldest madam, this, Shunning, you saw it too. The Yin family isn't a place for people to stay. If I die, the eldest madam will make you die with me. If I'm lucky enough to not die, she'll think of ways to kill me again." Saying this, Su Wan laughed mockingly. People outside are envious of the Yin family's women's limitless glory, but how many people know about the filth inside? "Shunning, I'm doing this for your own good. Go follow the Third Master and be his servant girl. The Third Master will protect you." Saying this, Su Wan turned to look at Su Rui. "Take Shunning in. She has no way to survive in the Yin family." In the original plot, after Su Wan died, Shunning's days in the Yin residence were really tough. Not only did she have to endure the oppression of the eldest madam's direct descendants, but she was even betrothed to an old man who was older than her by 20 years as a concubine. In the end, Unable to endure her husband's beating and scolding, Shunning hung herself in her husband's house. This was the outcome of her personal servant girl. Before the original body passed away, she told Yin Beige to take good care of her personal servant girl. After Su Wan died, Yin Beige was too sad and forgot about Shunning. Later on, he had Guangli. How could he remember the promise he made to Su Wan's sickbed? Chapter 335. The black blood Su Wan spat out was the remaining poison in her heart. After ordering Shunning to clean up the bloodstains, only Su Rui and Su Wan were left in the room. Seeing Su Wan's skinny face, Su Rui's heart ached a bit as he gently placed his hand on her face. His warm fingertips gently caressed her fair skin. "Wife, tell me. How do you want to kill the women in the Yin family?" Although Yao Baiqian and the others were the original body's owner, the one suffering from the pain was Su Wan. Plus, other than Yao Baiqian and Yao Ruofang who were the masterminds, there were many other accomplices. There were even those who knew the inside story but were watching from the side. Su Rui wouldn't let any of them off. Let's put it this way. General Su planned on destroying the Yin family. Su Wan smiled. It's easy to kill Yao Baiqian, but before that, we need to make her pay some interest. Plus, Guangli still needs to wait for a while before she can meet Yin Beige. We have time to play with them. Saying this, Su Wan smiled and tossed the medicinal ingredients Shunning bought for her from the medicinal workshop, a meaningful smile on her lips. Destroy the Yin family. No. She wanted to break down the Yin family step by step. Plus, destroying them all at once was far more interesting than watching them die bit by bit. Wife, these medicinal ingredients? Su Rui also smelled the faint scent of the medicinal ingredients in Su Wan's hands. He wasn't familiar with these medicinal ingredients. But he knew that Su Wan was good at using these medicinal ingredients to make poison. These are all good stuff. This is my present to Yin Beige. Su Wan winked at Su Rui and then leaned against his ear, softly whispering. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui's expression also slightly changed. What do you mean, it's better to offend a villain than a woman? Nanny. General Su finally understood the essence of this sentence. Wife, you're so ruthless, but this general likes it. I have to be ruthless to my ex-boyfriend. Wife, please don't mind. Tonight, Su Rui kept watching Su Wan sleep. Knowing that her body was too weak, he sat by the bed and held her hand. As long as he felt her palm become a bit cold, he would subconsciously transfer some internal force to her meridians. Before the sky brightened, Shunning came to Su Wan's room early like usual to light a fire. But the moment she entered, she felt warm inside. She saw the fire that had been lit a long time ago, and the man who had not slept the entire night leaning against the bed. Shunning was startled. For some reason, she suddenly thought of the dead young master. Although the young master's body was weak back then, he would wake up before the young mistress every day. He would often sit by the bed with his clothes draped over him and stare at the sleeping young mistress in a daze. Every time Shunning came in, the young master would gently wave his hand at her and tell her not to disturb the young mistress's sweet dreams. Shunning had never liked anyone and didn't know what love was. But at that time, she thought that big young master was such a good man. Every day, even when he looked at big young mistress's back, his eyes were so gentle. Maybe that was love. Unfortunately, big young mistress had always liked second young master. Shunning couldn't help but sigh. Shoot! Su Rui tiptoed up and glared at Shunning. Don't wake her up. Let her sleep a bit more, okay? Oh, okay. Shunning quickly nodded. For the first time, she felt that the third master wasn't as scary as the rumors said. I'm leaving. Su Rui quietly left. Before leaving, he looked back every few steps, reluctant to part. Take good care of her. Don't worry. Other than her, I'm not interested in any other woman. As long as you take good care of her, I'll arrange a good marriage for you when you enter my residence in the future. Su Rui leaned against Shunning and muttered a few words before turning to leave. Seeing the slender figure leave, Shunning subconsciously looked back at Su Wan, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. Big young mistress, are you happy marrying into the Yin family or not? For the next few days, Su Rui would come after nightfall on leave before dawn. Shunning was used to these days too. She wasn't as afraid of the third master as before. But thinking that she would have to leave big young mistress in a few days, she felt reluctant. Third master, this servant thinks that you're really amazing. Can you save big young mistress? On the fourth morning, Shunning couldn't help but block Su Rui's path. Save her. Of course he had to save her, but Yin family doesn't need big young mistress anymore. Shunning, you should understand this. They don't need big young mistress. Shunning froze, a bit confused. By the time she came back to her senses, Su Rui had already left. On the fifth day, Su Rui didn't appear because Yin Beige came back today. The young general who came back from the battlefield went straight to the side courtyard. This made Yao Ruofing in the main room clench her teeth in anger. The travel-worn man was still wearing a greenish-gray military uniform. After entering the outer hall, Yin Beige handed the military cap to Shunning. How's big young mistress? Shunning's expression darkened hearing Yin Beige's question. Second master, big young mistress, she can't get off the bed lately. What? Hearing Shunning's words, Yin Beige's footsteps sped up and he entered the room. The room was especially warm, but this small room was filled with a thick smell of loneliness. Sister-in-law. Yin Beige saw the haggard woman on the bed as soon as he entered. She was clearly in her early 20s, which was the prime of a woman's life. But now, she no longer had the peerless beauty of the past. She looked sickly, and her beautiful eyes were dark and lifeless. Second brother, you're back. Seeing the man in the well-ironed military uniform at the door with a stern and deep face, Su Wan struggled to support her body and sit up. However, she failed after trying twice. Ha! Su Wan couldn't help but laugh in self-mockery. Look at my useless body. I won't get up to talk to you. Don't mind me. Yin Beige's gaze darkened hearing Su Wan's words and seeing the loneliness and self-mockery in her eyes. He walked over and before Su Wan could react, he was already by the bed. He bent down and used his abnormally strong arms to carry her in his arms. Didn't I tell you to write me if anything happened before I left? You're this sick and you're still acting tough. Yin Beige, what are you doing? Seeing that Yin Beige didn't care about etiquette and carried her, Su Wan's expression didn't look good and she panicked. Hurry, hurry and put me down. What a disgrace. I'm not letting go. I'll take you to see a doctor, the best doctor in Liao City. If they can't cure you, I'll take you to the capital. If they can't cure you, I'll take you abroad. Su Wan, you can't die. Chapter 336. Hearing Yin Beige mention the deceased Yin Beiyue, Su Wan's gaze immediately turned sorrowful. Yin Beige, what right do you have to take care of me for him? Saying this, Su Wan suddenly turned her head and bit the back of Yin Beige's hand. Feeling the pain on the back of his hand, Yin Beige merely furrowed his brows but he didn't loosen his grip at all. Whether I have the right or not isn't up to you to decide. In the Yin family, I have the final say. Yin Beige carried Su Wan and was about to walk out. Seeing how domineering the young general was, Shunning's gaze flickered. The first person she thought of was the third master. Sniffle, third master, quickly come and save the eldest madam, sister-in-law. Just as Shunning was begging for help, someone really did come. The woman who came in wore a crimson cheapao and a snow-white, luxurious fur shawl. Her long black hair was tied into a beautiful bun, and there were all sorts of expensive jewelry in her hair. Compared to the pale-faced Su Wan in Yin Beige's arms, the woman in front of her was simply dazzling with jewels. Only the second madam, Yao Ruofeng, dared to dress so ostentatiously in the Yin residence. The 19-year-old Yao Ruofeng was the same as her aunt, Yao Baiqian. They were both the most outstanding beauties in the Yao family. Yao Baiqian was dignified and elegant while Yao Ruofeng was a classical beauty. From last night, Yao Ruofeng knew that Yin Beige would return today. Therefore, after showering and changing, she ordered her personal maid, Yu Xiu, to dress herself up meticulously. She even sprayed the French perfume that the second madam had someone bring back from abroad. As the saying goes, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Plus, the man who was about to return was Yin Beige, the man that Yao Ruofeng had admired since she was young. But what Yao Ruofeng didn't expect was that while she was anxiously waiting for her husband who she hadn't seen for a long time, her husband didn't even enter her courtyard and rushed to the side courtyard. Side courtyard, Su Wan. After hearing this news, Yao Ruofeng naturally brought Yu Xiu to the side courtyard. At this moment, Yao Ruofeng stood at the door and looked at the people in the room. She couldn't help but grip her handkerchief tightly. She rushed over with Yu Xiu. Although she tried her best to calm herself down, she saw her husband hugging her brother's widow the moment she entered the room. How could she calm down in such a situation? Seeing that Yao Ruofeng's expression was becoming uglier and uglier, Yu Xiu couldn't help but tug on Yao Ruofeng's sleeves and whispered, "Second young mistress, you have to calm down. Calm down. Calm down. That's right. My aunt has always told me to stay calm no matter what happens. Don't let anger get to your head. What's more, that fox demon wouldn't be able to live for more than a few days. Why should he be jealous of a dead person?" Thinking about this, Yao Ruofeng heaved a sigh of relief. She put away the jealousy in her eyes and smiled as she looked up. However, her gaze landed on the back of Yin Beige's bleeding hand. "Beige, your hand's injured." When Yao Ruofeng saw that her husband was bleeding, she instinctively went forward and took out her handkerchief to bandage his wound. However, when she got closer and saw the row of teeth marks on the back of his hand, Yao Ruofeng's movements froze. She looked up in disbelief and saw the blood on the corner of Su Wan's lips. "You bit him." Yao Ruofeng's gaze at Su Wan turned unusually cold. How could she do this? Seeing Yao Ruofeng's gaze, Su Wan couldn't help but lean her face against Yin Beige's chest. She smiled mockingly and provocatively at Yao Ruofeng. "It's me." Su Wan's provocative smile finally defeated Yao Ruofeng's last bit of rationality. "You fox demon. Get down here. You're shameless. A widow that's about to die actually seduced her brother-in-law. Su Wan, you're shameless. Enough." Seeing that Yao Ruofeng was about to pull Su Wan's arm, Yin Beige's gaze turned cold. He berated while pushing Yao Ruofeng to the side. "Are you crazy? Can't you see that she's really sick?" Sick? Which sick person would still be in the mood to seduce a man? She's clearly pretending. Yao Ruofeng's exquisite face was twisted in anger. "Yin Beige, I'm your legitimate wife. She's your sister-in-law. Even if your brother dies, she can only be your sister-in-law for the rest of her life. Don't you feel embarrassed if this gets out? This is my business." "Yao Ruofeng, you're meddling too much." Hearing Yao Ruofeng's words, Yin Beige's expression turned gloomy. "Ahem." At this time, Su Wan suddenly coughed in Yin Beige's arms. Hearing the heart-wrenching coughs, Yin Beige immediately looked at Su Wan in concern. It's okay. Bear with it. I'll take you out of the residence to see a doctor right now. It's no use. Su Wan lifted her head and her gaze landed on Yin Beige's stern face. Yin Beige, I don't need your fake kindness. If you're really doing this for me, for Beiyue, then you shouldn't be here and you shouldn't be doing these things. Yin Beige, all of your concern is just poison to me. Don't you know why I ended up like this? Saying this, Su Wan struggled with all her might again. This time, Yin Beige froze on the spot because of what she said. This allowed Su Wan to easily struggle out of his arms. Seeing that she was about to fall on the ground, Shunning immediately ran over and supported Su Wan. Eldest madam, be careful. I'm fine. Su Wan wiped the blood from the corner of her lips and looked at Yin Beige and Yao Ruofeng. You're not welcome here. Leave. As she spoke, she turned to look at Shunning beside her. Shunning, help me back. Yes. Shunning nodded and silently helped Su Wan to the bed. Su Wan. Yin Beige snapped out of his trance and looked at her skinny figure. He couldn't help but call her name softly. Brother's death, do you still blame me? Ha! Su Wan sneered. I don't blame anyone. I can only blame myself for being blind. The person I've let down the most is Beiyue. I'm doing great right now. I'm about to go down and accompany him. No one is accompanying him. He's really lonely down there. That kind of loneliness. Yin Beige, you'll never understand. You're not him so. I don't need you. Please, take your wife and leave. Saying this, Su Wan returned to the bed and had Shunning pull down the curtains. The dark blue brocade curtains separated the small room into two different worlds. Yin Beige, you think you're good but you're actually a poison. Chapter 337. Coming out of Su Wan's side courtyard, Yin Beige wore a dark expression while Yao Ruofeng followed behind him. Halfway there, she hesitated and wanted to pull Yin Beige's military uniform. But the moment her fingers touched his sleeves, the man in front of her fiercely flung her away. Yao Ruofeng bit her lips. Looking at Yin Beige's tall and slender figure, she hesitated for a bit. In the end, she still wore a wronged expression and quickly followed behind the man. The two of them brought Yu Xiu back to their courtyard in silence. As soon as they entered the main room, they saw Yao Baiqian in a dark golden robe sitting in the living room. She was sipping tea with a calm expression. Mother. Seeing her aunt and mother-in-law, Yao Ruofeng immediately ran over and grabbed Yao Baiqian's arm coquettishly. Mother, you're here. Hurry and persuade Beige. He's been angry at me. I didn't do anything. I'm really doing this for his own good. Okay. Yao Baiqian put down the teacup and didn't look at Yao Ruofeng's expression. Instead, she glanced at Yu Xiu. Yu Xiu, help your young madam into the room to rest. Yes, madam. Yu Xiu came from the Yao family so she naturally listened to Yao Baiqian. Seeing that her mother-in-law had spoken, Yao Ruofeng immediately let go and bowed at Yao Baiqian. Then she allowed Yu Xiu to help her into the room. Shenlan. After the master and servant left, Yao Baiqian raised her hand and called Shenlan to her side. She whispered a few words to her and Shenlan nodded respectfully. Then, she straightened her body and brought all the servants away. Before she left, Shenlan even carefully closed the door. Right now, only Yao Baiqian and Yin Beige were left in the living room. Mother, what do you want to say? Yin Beige could tell that his mother wanted to say something. He looked at Yao Baiqian and asked, Is it about Su Wan? Slap. Yao Baiqian slammed the teacup on the mahogany table. That's your sister-in-law, how can you call her by her name? She had just returned, but she didn't even enter her own courtyard and directly ran to the side courtyard. People who didn't know better would think that you really had some shameful relationship with her. Beige, you're your father's only legitimate son. You're the young commander of Liao City and the only heir of the Yin family. You can't ruin your future in the hands of a shameless woman. Mother, you can't say that about Sue, sister-in-law. She didn't do anything to let Big Brother down. What happened to Big Brother that day was obviously because of me. Enough. Yao Baiqian swept the teacup on the table onto the ground. She stood up and quickly walked in front of Yin Beige. She lifted her face and stared into his eyes. Do you want the entire world to know how your brother died? Do you want everyone in Liao City to criticize you and say that you once tried to violate your sister-in-law? Yao Baiqian's eyes were cold. Beige, Beiyue isn't here anymore. Mother only has you. Because of a woman, I already lost your brother. I can't lose you because of her. Why can't you understand Mother's painstaking efforts? Seeing the tears in Yao Baiqian's eyes and the faint wrinkles on her dignified face, Yin Beige looked down and the lines on his face gradually softened. Mother, I know that everything you do is for me and for this family. He lifted his hand and gently held Yao Baiqian's shoulder. Mother, I know I was wrong. I don't have any other thoughts. I promised Big Brother that I would help him take care of sister-in-law. Now that she's so sick, I'm worried. I've already thought about it. I'll send someone to send sister-in-law to the Western doctor's clinic tomorrow and let the foreigners check her again. No. Hearing Yin Beige's words, Yao Baiqian's gaze flickered and she immediately rejected his suggestion. Who is your sister-in-law? How can she show her face in front of the foreigners? Don't think that I don't know what the foreigners are doing. They want to touch and take off her clothes. Where would our Yin family's face then? Don't bother with your sister-in-law's matters in the future. Mother has already invited the best doctors in the capital over. Their ancestors are the imperial physicians of the previous dynasty. They specialize in treating the emperor. How can those foreign doctors be compared to the imperial physicians? Yin Beige's gaze flickered. Mother, you really invited the imperial physicians to treat sister-in-law. That's great. She can be cured. There's hope. Yao Baiqian looked down and sneered inwardly. That woman couldn't be kept alive anymore. This time, she would end it all and send her to the next world. Night, Yin family's courtyard. When Yin Beige came out of the study, snowflakes were falling from the sky. It was really a snowy winter. Seeing the pure white snowflakes, Yin Beige froze. He suddenly recalled the first time he met Su Wan overseas. It was also a snowy day. That day, she wore a red coat, and her whole body was wrapped in a bright red color. In the heavy snow of winter, her smile made the pure white world glow with a new color in an instant. Unknowingly, Yin Beige walked to the side courtyard again. He looked at the small and lonely courtyard door and sighed. He was about to turn and leave and a familiar song rang in the courtyard. The wind blew and the clouds swayed. The waves on the ocean rose with the wind. Father went fishing and didn't return home. Mother missed him by the shore. This was Su Wan's favorite ballad. Yin Beige paused and his gaze gradually became absent-minded. Why is the tune of this song so sad? I don't know. Every time my mother sings it, she seems to be reminiscing and missing. That day, the moonlight was like water. It was the Mid-Autumn Festival in a foreign country. Su Wan quietly sat next to Yin Beige and looked at the moon. Her tone was really gentle. Every time I miss my mother, I have to sing this song. Every time I hum this song, I feel like she's by my side and has never left. Silly girl. Beige couldn't help but lift Su Wan's head and let her rest her head on his shoulder. If I'm not by your side in the future, will you still sing this song for me? Will you think of me? Su Wan's face flushed, but she still nodded slightly. I will. But I still hope that we can be together forever and never separate. The promise of forever was like the snowflakes in front of him. They fell, melted, and then disappeared. Beige suddenly wanted to charge into the courtyard and ask her if she still loved him or not. But he didn't have the courage. Ever since his elder brother died, he didn't have the courage to ask her anymore. He was afraid. Afraid of the answer. No matter what the answer was, he didn't dare to accept it. Beige. Between them was a person who had died a long time ago. Chapter 338. Because of Beige's return, the family's courtyard was bustling with activity for the next few days. There were a lot more people coming in and out of Su Wan's side courtyard. These people were naturally sent by Yao Baiqian to take care of Su Wan. There were maids from the family and doctors who specialized in treating the family. Su Wan understood that Yao Baiqian purposely did this for Beige to see. Su Wan knew Yao Baiqian's methods like the back of her hand. No matter what she sent, she would accept it all. She was a patient who couldn't get off the bed right now. Yao Baiqian wasn't very vigilant towards her either. She was happy to act as the young mistress who didn't have much time left. In the blink of an eye, it was December. The weather was getting colder and colder. It was almost the end of the year and the bandits on the mountain outside the city were getting restless again, committing crimes everywhere. As the successor that Shun nurtured meticulously, Beige naturally had to take the lead every time there was a war. This time, before leaving, Beige specifically went to Shun's residence and talked about Beichao with his father for the first time. Shun was surprised by Beige's suggestion to send Beichao overseas. But then he thought about it. His youngest son really wasn't suited to lead troops to war. He might as well send him to learn how to do business. After he comes back and manages the family stores, he might not need to rely on his second son's salary anymore. Everyone said that every family had their own difficulties. Although Shun was a general, there were hundreds of people in the family. The salary of hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the army was money. Right now, the world wasn't doing well and the surrounding areas were in constant wars. Apparently, there were some university students in the capital who wanted to reform. In short, General had to prepare for a rainy day. The conversation between the father and son was harmonious and tacit. In the end, Shun also decided to send Beichao overseas to learn how to do business. At the end of December, it was going to be New Year. Su Wan's illness had finally reached a point where she couldn't be saved. Right now, her courtyard was filled with Yao Baiqian's people. Shunning had also been asked to come to his residence. Today, just like what Su Wan knew, it snowed for an entire day. The entire Liao city was covered in silver. When Beige rushed into the room with a gust of cold wind, Su Wan's gaze was a bit slack. Su Wan. Beige didn't care about sweeping the snowflakes off his shoulders and body as he charged into the room. Second young master, eldest young mistress is already dying. Scram. Get out of here. After ordering the servants to leave, Beige trembled as he carried the increasingly thin and weak body. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'll take you to see a doctor right now. You'll get better, you'll get better. Su Wan, you won't die. Losing something and losing it right in front of his eyes were two completely different feelings. At this moment, Beige panicked. Beige. Su Wan's gaze was lax, but her tone was as gentle as before. How long had it been since she had called his name so gently? Ian Beige trembled as he gently caressed Su Wan's pale face. I'm here. I'm here. Hee hee. Su Wan smiled faintly. Beige, I'm going to leave. I can't bear to part with you. But I need to go accompany Brother Beiyue. He's really lonely. He's such a gentle person. Although, we're only husband and wife in name, I know. I always knew that he likes me. On the night of their wedding, he lifted the veil and saw her for the first time. He liked her. That was the so-called love at first sight. Ian family's brothers fell in love with the same woman at first sight at different times. Unfortunately, she lived in pain because she wasn't the female lead of this world. Big Brother Beiyue told me that when you came back, you would marry me. I've been waiting. Beige, why? You don't believe me, you don't believe him either. Do you know how painful it is for me? No, don't say it. Ian Beige's tears fell on Su Wan's face. Drop by drop, the warm tears couldn't warm her cold face anymore. I'm so tired, really tired. Su Wan's voice grew weaker and weaker. Her gaze was about to lose its light. Ian Beige suddenly hugged her tightly in his arms. Xiao Wan, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. I love you, I love you. Love. Su Wan slowly opened her mouth and slowly took out an exquisite sachet from her arms. Beige, this is my hair, can you take it with you? That way. I can always be with you. No matter what happens, wherever you are, I'll be there. I'll never leave you. Never leave you. Ian Beige held the sachet in his hands, his voice choking. Okay. I promise you. I'll promise you anything. Then, that's good. I have one last wish. After I die, bury me next to Beiyue. Let me be with him. This. I owe him. Before she could finish, Su Wan had already stopped breathing in Ian Beige's arms. Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan. This night, it was snowing heavily. Ian Beige's eyes were red as he hugged Su Wan's body that was gradually turning cold. He didn't close his eyes the entire night. The second day, Yao Baiqian ordered her adjutant, Lu Anbua, to forcefully knock Ian Beige out and take him away. As for Su Wan's body, she was naturally sealed in a coffin, planning on choosing a day to bury her. In the Ian family, women didn't have a high status. Plus, Su Wan was Ian Beiyue's widow. Her mourning hall was cold and cheerless. In the silent night, Ian Beichao was the only one wearing mourning clothes and wearing a white cloth, kneeling in front of the coffin. Late at night, the north wind whistled. The paper money in the brazier in front of the mourning hall had already burned to ashes. Soft footsteps could be heard behind him. I told you guys not to come anymore. I won't leave. Ian Beichao's voice was hoarse, but the young man's tone was really firm. Why? A cold male voice rang behind him. Ian Beichao froze. He turned to see Ian Minji wearing a black cloak standing behind him. Third uncle, why are you here? I'm here to see her. Su Rui glanced at the coffin in the middle of the mourning hall. It was almost time. He had to take Su Wan's corpse away. But what surprised Su Rui was that there was someone keeping vigil for Su Wan at this time. Just in case, Su Rui specially went to Ian Beige's room before nightfall and pressed his sleeping acupuncture point, ensuring that he wouldn't wake up tonight. Hearing Su Rui's words, Ian Beichao glanced at him strangely. Then he kowtowed to Su Rui. Third uncle, you're too kind. This is, Ian Beichao's actions surprised Su Rui. What's going on with this kid? I promised sister-in-law that I would take care of her when she's old. Now, she's gone. I have to wear mourning clothes for her. Sister-in-law doesn't have any children, so I'll be her son. Hearing Yin Beichao's words, Su Rui lifted his brows and smiled. He slowly walked to the coffin. You're right. Beichao, you're so filial. Your sister-in-law will be really happy if she finds out. Bang! Saying this, Su Rui gently patted the coffin and then pushed open the lid. Under Yin Beichao's flabbergasted gaze, he carried Su Wan out of the coffin and wrapped her in a black cloak. Third uncle, you, Shu. Chapter 339. The ice and snow melted and the spring arrived. The new year arrived on schedule. In the new year, there were many changes in the Yin family's courtyard. Ever since Su Wan's illness passed away, her courtyard became the Yin family's forbidden area. Other than Yin Beige, no one dared to step in there. At the beginning of February, Yin Beichao left the Yin family and stepped on the ferry to cross the ocean. Yin Shun asked someone to bring him overseas to learn finance. But General Yin definitely didn't expect that after a few years, the return of this finance genius would be the entire Yin family's nightmare. Because of Su Wan's death, Yin Beige was depressed. Yao Baiqian sighed at her son's infatuation. If she didn't selfishly separate Su Wan and Yin Beige back then what would the situation be like today? Would their family be harmonious and their children and grandchildren would be around them? Unfortunately, there were no ifs in this world. There was no medicine for regret. In May, the remnants of the bandits who were captured colluded with Yunqing's army and started burning, killing, and looting around Liao City. Right now, Liao City, Linqing, and Yunqing's relationship was really tense. Both sides almost shed all pretenses of cordiality. At such a sensitive time, Yin Shun naturally couldn't admit defeat to Yunqing's people. He ordered Yin Beige to bring troops out of the city again. But during this battle, Yin Beige fell into the sea and disappeared. The news of Yin Beige's disappearance spread to the Yin family. Yao Baiqian and Yao Ruofeng immediately fainted. Although Hu Huiwa also looked anxious, she was overjoyed inside. Yin family's two legitimate sons. One died and the other went missing. If Yin Beige died too, then wouldn't her son, Yin Beichao, be the general's only son? Thinking of this possibility, Hu Huiwa felt every cell in her body trembling in excitement. Right now, in the third master's courtyard. Wife, do you feel better today? When Su Rui walked into the bedroom, he saw Shunning combing Su Wan's hair. Her beautiful hair finally had luster. It was no longer as dry and lifeless as before. I feel much better, Su Wan smiled at Su Rui. Su Wan smiled at Su Rui. At this time, Su Rui walked behind her and snatched the comb from Shunning's hands. He combed Su Wan's hair gently and seriously. Shunning saw this scene and immediately retreated obediently. In the past few months, Su Wan had been recuperating in her room. Su Rui also helped her adjust her internal breathing every day. The remaining poison in her body was cleared out, but this body's internal organs had been seriously infected by the poison. Even if the remaining poison had been cleared, this body was still much weaker than the average person. Moreover, she had at most 5 years left to live. 5 years was enough for Su Wan and Su Rui to destroy the Yin family. But thinking that his wife had to drag her sickly body to do missions in this world, General Su's heart ached. He had given her everything he could and wanted to give her, but there were some things that had already happened, and he was still helpless. Done. Sensing that Su Rui was distracted, Su Wan raised her hand and held his hand with her slightly cold and slender fingers. Don't comb it, it's already very beautiful. She looked at the face in the mirror that had regained its former beauty and couldn't help but smile charmingly. Time is tight now. Have you prepared everything that should be prepared? Yes. Su Rui nodded softly. I found someone to buy Drunken Smoke Lane. In the future, you'll be the lady boss there, Shui Linglong. No one will suspect your identity. I've prepared your name card and your past. It's flawless. I'm most at ease with third master handling things. Su Wan smiled and slowly stood up. Then let's start tomorrow. Wife, don't work too hard. Your body, shook. Su Wan moved closer to Su Rui and tiptoed to gently kiss his lips. It's fine. With you here, I don't have to work hard at all. Su Rui's gaze dimmed. He lifted the woman in front of him and carried her. Okay, go rest first. We'll go to Drunken Smoke Lane tomorrow. Liao City, Drunken Smoke Lane. This used to be the biggest dance lane in Liao City. Unfortunately, ever since the popular singer, Lady Bailing, died last year, the business got worse and worse. In the end, the boss had no choice but to sell the entire Drunken Smoke Lane at a low price. Even if it was the lowest price, it was still a sky-high price for ordinary people and even ordinary merchants. Now that the Drunken Smoke shop had changed owners and had reopened, everyone was curious as to what the Drunken Smoke shop would become after the change of ownership. Looking at the magnificent entrance and the signboard covered with red cloth, everyone was curious as to what the Drunken Smoke shop would become after the change of ownership. The auspicious time is here. With a loud and clear shout, the firecrackers went off and the lion dance team at the entrance began to dance with all their might. As the lion's head picked up the red silk on the signboard, the words Linglong Lu appeared in front of everyone. Linglong Lane, Drunken Linglong. Yinshua Yaolon, Red Sleeve Dance. This was the most popular jingle in Liao City's men's circle this spring. Linglong Lane. Just like its name, the lady boss, Shui Linglong, had a white veil covering her face and was brimming with talent. As for her three main beauties, Bai Yinshue, Hua Yaolon, and Yan Xiuwu, they were all extremely beautiful and beautiful. They were the goddesses in the hearts of all the men in Liao City. Unfortunately, Linglong Lane's expenses were really high. The wine was mellow, the people were beautiful, the songs were sweet, and the dances were enchanting. Ordinary people couldn't afford it. Only the wealthiest people in Liao City could become the four beauties' guests. Third Master Yin was one of them. Some people even saw him spending the night in Shui Linglong's room. Therefore, the news that Linglong Lane was backed by the general's residence and Shui Linglong was Third Master Yin's lover slowly spread throughout Liao City. The people of Liao City were initially worried about Third Master Yin's recent changes. But ever since the news that Third Master Yin was infatuated with Shui Linglong, the people of Liao City finally heaved a sigh of relief. Lord Shui, you're the reincarnation of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Hurry and take care of that evildoer for everyone. Indeed, although it was a singing and dancing house, Linglong Lane accepted all the male and female guests. Plus, Lord Shui Linglong often brought people from Linglong Lane to help the poor people. She also gave out free porridge and steamed buns to the refugees who fled to Liao City. In everyone's eyes, she was definitely a really good woman. And this woman was going to be with Third Master Yin. Therefore, this was what everyone thought. Lady Shui was a good person. A really good person. She was afraid that Third Master Yin, this evildoer, would continue to harm the women in Liao City, so she sacrificed herself. This was what the Buddhists meant: if I don't enter hell, who will? Su Rui was speechless. Go to hell, of course. Different from the people's groundless accusations, the first and second master of the Yin family knew that their good-for-nothing brother was finally going to settle down and find a good woman to marry. Because of this, Yin Shun and Yin Qingma called Su Rui back to the Yin family's courtyard. The three brothers sat around the table, drinking and chatting happily. Third brother, just what kind of beauty is she? You're so mesmerized and you're still not willing to bring her home for us to see. Yin Shun drank a mouthful of wine and smiled at his third brother. Yeah. Yin Qingma couldn't help but smile at his brother too. That boss Shua has been wearing a veil all this time. Does she have a birthmark on her face that can't be seen by others? Or, is she really more beautiful than a fairy? Ha! Chapter 340. The painting slowly unfurled. The woman in the painting had black hair tied up high and wore a red dress. She was enchanting and charming. The person in the painting sat in front of a zither, looking down and playing seriously. Her fingers were slender and fair, her smile cold and charming. Yin Shun and Yin Qingma put down their wine glasses at the same time and glanced at the person in the painting. Not bad. Not bad. Yin Qingma couldn't help but praise her. She was cold and charming. Women like her were the most flirtatious. Yin Shun didn't say anything. He just quietly looked at the person in the painting. Elder brother. Yin Qingma froze seeing that Yin Shun was in a daze. Although the three brothers liked beauties, what kind of beauties hadn't their elder brother seen before? Even if Xue Linglong was a peerless beauty, she was still their third brother's woman. Elder brother. Yin Qingma nudged Yin Shun gently. Ah. Yin Shun finally reacted. There was a trace of awkwardness in his eyes. Second brother, don't you think that boss Xue looks like someone? What? Yin Qingma listened to his big brother's words and couldn't help but lean in front of the painting to take a closer look. I didn't think so, but now that big brother said it, I really feel that it looks a little familiar. Sigh. Hearing their conversation, Su Rui put away the scroll and sighed. Eldest brother, second brother, I won't hide it from you guys. Linglong does look like someone, but because she looks too much like that person, I don't dare to bring her back to the residence. I'm afraid, sister-in-law won't like it. Your sister-in-law doesn't like it. Yin Shun's gaze brightened. It's her. Speaking of women that his wife didn't like, other than the women around him, Yin Shun knew that his wife disliked the most was the deceased eldest daughter-in-law, Su Wan. Now that he thought about it, Xue Linglong and Su Wan really looked alike. But Su Wan was a lady from a respectable family. She was well-educated, gentle, and docile. As for Xue Linglong, he could tell that she was a cold and strong-willed woman. The two looked alike but not alike. Oh. At this time Yin Shun let out a long sigh. Don't worry about your sister-in-law. She can't control your courtyard's affairs, but… Big bro, are you talking about beige? Su Rui's gaze flickered, immediately understanding Yin Shun's underlying meaning. Yin Beige had been dispirited after Su Wan's death. Who in the Yin family didn't know that the young general had feelings for the eldest madam? Even if Yao Ruofing was jealous now, she couldn't compare to a dead person. Ever since Yin Beige disappeared not long ago, Yin Shun had been sending people to search for him. A few days ago, he finally received news that Yin Beige was recovering in a small fishing village. Yin Shun immediately arranged for Lu Anbo to bring people to pick him up. Calculating the distance, he would return to Liao City in 3 to 5 days. Big brother, Beige's injuries are more important. Su Rui looked up and pretended to be righteous. Linglong and I aren't in a hurry to get married. We'll talk about our marriage after Beige recovers. All right. Hearing that his third brother had become so sensible, Yin Shun felt comforted. Yin Qingma drank a few more mouthfuls of wine and then touched Su Rui's arm mysteriously. Third brother, they say that Linglong Lu's Yan Xiuwu is the #1 dancer in Liao City. Second brother, I don't have time to go and support her. When are you going to tell Boss Xue to have Miss Yan dance for me at my residence? Hearing Yin Qingma's words, Su Rui smiled knowingly. If it was someone else, Linglong would definitely be reluctant. But this is second brother's request. I'll go back and tell Linglong. Second brother, just wait. Ha! Qingma raised his wine cup. Come, third brother, second brother will toast you. 3 days later, Luanbo brought a group of people to pick up Yin Beige who hadn't fully recovered yet. What surprised everyone in the Yin residence was that Yin Beige actually lost his memories. Yao Baiqian's emotions were complicated after hearing this news. While her heart ached for her son, she also rejoiced. Beige lost his memories. Did that mean that he also forgot about Su Wan? Yao Ruofeng's emotions coincided with Yao Baiqian's. Seeing Yin Beige in a daze on the bed, Yao Ruofeng couldn't help but reveal a gentle and charming smile. Beige, it's okay if you don't remember me. You'll remember me one day. Don't give yourself any pressure. Saying this, Yao Ruofeng lifted her hand out of habit, wanting to place her hand on the back of Yin Beige's hand, but Yin Beige dodged her hand as if he was electrocuted. I want to be alone. He was really familiar with the Yin family. He also felt a trace of resistance from the bottom of his heart, as if something really bad had happened here and he didn't want to recall it. Just what had happened? Why couldn't he find that familiar figure in this familiar residence? Unknowingly, Yin Beige thought of Guang Li's figure again. That woman was really similar to the person in his mind, but there were a lot of differences. Yin Beige's return caused the haze that shrouded the Yin family to dissipate quite a bit. After finding out that Yin Beige lost his memories, Yin Shun didn't think it was a big deal. Instead, he thought of Yin Minji's marriage. While Yin Beige lost his memories, it seemed like a good time for Minji and Shuel Linglong to get married. Perhaps, Beige wouldn't remember the past for the rest of his life. As long as he sealed everyone's mouths in the Yin residence, then Yin Beige would never know of Su Wan's existence. Just like that, on the 5th day of the 6th month, Yin family's third master married the boss of Linglong House, Shuel Linglong. Yin family's third master's wedding was naturally grand. Unfortunately, the bride wore a bright red veil the entire time, disappointing the guests who wanted to see Boss Shue's true appearance. The entire wedding went on for a day. It was especially grand and lively. Because Su Wan's body was weak, Shunning helped her into the bridal room to rest early while Su Rui naturally dealt with the guests outside. Third madam, if you're tired, then rest first. I'll go watch the door. Although Shunning knew Su Wan's identity, she always remembered Su Rui's orders. No matter if it was in front of others or behind them, she always called Su Wan third madam. Okay. Su Wan nodded, hearing Shunning's words. Right now, she had taken off her phoenix coronet and cape. She was only wearing a red wedding gown. Although Yin family's wedding ceremony was much simpler than the ancient royal families, her body couldn't take it right now. Just as Su Wan, who was in the room, took off all the ornaments on her head, loosened her hair bun, and planned to take a nap under the red dragon and phoenix quilt, a burst of subtle footsteps suddenly came from outside the door of the bridal chamber. Hurry! I've already tricked Shunning away. If she comes back, she's going to complain to third uncle. The man said with a guilty tone as he approached the bridal room's door. Damn, Yin Bei, you stepped on my foot. Yin Bei Yen. I'm your elder brother. Who are you calling yourself my elder brother? Yin Bei lifted his foot and then glared at his younger brother. Cough. These two were the second master's sons. The eldest master, Yin Bei, and the second master, Yin Bei Yen. Because Yin Qingma was always doing business outside, his two sons were his left and right arms. Normally, you wouldn't be able to see these two young masters in the Yin family's courtyard. But tonight, because the two had heard of Boss Shue's name, they couldn't wait until tomorrow morning. They wanted to see Boss Shue's true appearance tonight. Of course, because these two were a bit lacking in courage, Yin Bei brought a protective talisman. Second brother, hurry up. Seeing the indifferent Yin Bei's dilly-dallying, Yin Bei Yen couldn't help but step forward and pull him over. Stop dilly-dallying. What if third uncle's people find out? Yin Bei was speechless. Chapter 341. From the window of the bridal room, they could only see the flickering candlelight in the room. Hey, hurry up. Yin Bei Yen was already under the bridal room's window. He used his finger to poke through the window paper and then stuck his head out, looking inside curiously. Do you see? Do you see? What does third aunt look like? Before coming to the bridal room to peek, the two brothers had even made a bet. Yin Bei had always believed that the woman who could make his third uncle turn back must be the most beautiful woman in the entire Liao city. However, Yin Bei Yen had a different opinion from his brother. He looked inside the room but unfortunately, his position and line of sight weren't good. He could only see the other end of the bridal room. Forget the bride, he couldn't even see the bride's feet. I can't see. Why are you rushing me for? Yin Bei Yen turned around and glared at Yin Bei. Then, his gaze shifted and he walked to the door with his back bent. His hands gently pushed the door crack. Hey, hurry over. You should be able to see her face from here. Hearing Yin Bei Yen's words, Yin Bei immediately grabbed the speechless Yin Bei and walked to the door excitedly. Who? Why are you acting so sneakily? At this time, Shunning's loud scolding suddenly rang from behind the three. Damn! Yin Bei Yen panicked and pounced towards the door. Clang! He pushed open the bridal room's door. Inside the room, Su Wan froze seeing Yin Bei Yen on the ground in a sorry state. Then she subconsciously looked up and saw Yin Bei and Yin Bei's faces. Hiss, I saw a ghost. Yin Bei immediately exclaimed seeing Su Wan's face. Yin Bei Yen hurriedly got up. He swept the dust off his body while smiling awkwardly. The moment he saw Su Wan, his smile froze. Really like. Although the brothers didn't spend much time in the Yin family, they still had a deep impression of Su Wan. You guys, at this time, Su Wan narrowed her eyes and looked suspiciously at the three young masters at the door. Third madam. At this time, Shunning sprinted into the bridal room. Seeing the three people at the door, her gaze swept over Yin Bei's face. Then she lowered her eyes and said respectfully, Third madam, these three are the young masters of our Yin family. These two are from the second master's family. This one is the marshal. Oh. Hearing Shunning's words, Su Wan nodded in understanding. Then she turned slightly and smiled faintly at the three people at the door. Third master hasn't returned yet and you guys are here to mess around in the bridal room. Isn't it a bit early? Hearing her gentle and slightly teasing voice, Yin Bei immediately gave Yin Bei Yen a look. The two brothers grabbed Yin Bei's arms and were about to walk out. However, Yin Bei still stood where he was. From the moment the door was accidentally knocked open, he immediately saw the woman in the wedding dress on the red wedding bed. As the saying goes, a single glance can last for 10,000 years. When he first laid eyes on her, his entire heart was trembling non-stop. Is it her? Is it her? The person in his memory, the face in his memory. They really do look alike. Yin Bei froze in place. His body was as hard as a rock, making the thin and weak young Master Yin feel helpless. Is it you? Yin Bei said shakily. Although he hadn't recovered his memory yet, the outline of the person in his mind was gradually becoming clearer. Hearing Yin Bei's voice, Su Wan furrowed her brows. Marshal, what are you talking about? I don't understand. It's a misunderstanding. Third aunt, Marshall is injured. His mind is a bit messed up. Yin Bei Yen moved in front of Yin Beige in a flash, blocking his line of sight. Beige, third uncle is coming back. Let's hurry back. Saying this, Yin Bei Yen moved closer to Yin Beige's ears and whispered, Beige, don't mess around. This is third aunt, not the person in your heart. That person, hearing Yin Beiyen's words, Yin Beige's gaze landed on his face. You know who that person is? Yin Bei Yen opened his mouth but was at a loss for words. After all, the marshal had ordered him to keep quiet. Damn. What are you guys waiting for? Third uncle is back. Hurry and leave. At this time, footsteps and voices came from outside. Yin Bei anxiously grabbed Yin Beige's arm. Brother, you're my real brother. Let's go. If there's anything, let's talk when we get back. Saying this, the two grabbed Yin Beige's arm and hurriedly fled the bridal room while Yin Beige was in a daze. Seeing the three young masters leaving, Shunning furrowed her brows and turned to look at Su Wan nervously. Third madam, it's fine. Su Wan smiled faintly. She wasn't afraid that Yin Beige would recognize her. She was afraid that he wouldn't recognize her. Moments later, Su Ruik slowly walked into the bridal room. He waved his hand and Shunning immediately left respectfully. Are you okay? Su Rui sat by the bed and looked at Su Wan. He habitually touched her fingertips. Thankfully, she wasn't too cold. I'm fine. Don't be so careful. Who am I? I won't die. Seeing how careful Su Rui had been these past few days, Su Wan couldn't help but poke his face. Third master, do you want me to help you change your clothes and sleep? Ha. Su Rui smiled. Third master is in a good mood today. Let me help you. Saying this, Su Rui removed Su Wan's wedding dress and then carefully helped her lie down on the bed. You've been tired all day. Go to sleep early. Tomorrow, we need to go to the residence to see Yao Baiqian. Right, how did Yin Beige react? Oh, I feel like Yin Bei will tell him what happened in the past. Anyways, there'll be a good show tomorrow. Saying this, Su Wan closed her eyes and smiled softly. Hubby, good night. Good night. Su Rui leaned over and kissed Su Wan's cheek. Then he lifted his hand and extinguished the oil lamp in the room. Tonight, the couple slept peacefully while Yin Beige returned to the Yin family residence. He was standing at the door of the side courtyard. No one had taken care of this courtyard for a long time. Walking through the door, he saw that the weeds were really tall. This is where she used to live. Yin Beige asked softly as he slowly closed his eyes. So familiar. This is the place. He sensed it. Behind her, Yin Bei nodded and sighed. Beauties are unfortunate. She used to be in good health, but ever since Beiyua's brother passed away, Su Wan's health got worse and worse. Even Dr. Sun couldn't do anything about her illness. Dr. Sun. Hearing Yin Bei's words, Yin Beige paused slightly. Yin family has a doctor with the surname Sun. Though he had just returned a few days ago, Yin Beige had seen many doctors due to his injuries, but he had never seen Dr. Sunday. Dr. Sun is the oldest doctor in the Yin family. But Beige, you might not remember because you lost your memory. Dr. Sun passed away a few months ago. I think not long after Su Wan passed away. Yin Bei didn't know much about Dr. Sun's death. After all, he often traveled for business. When Sun Zhangyi died, he was still outside. What a coincidence. Hearing Yin Bei's words, Yin Beige's gaze changed slightly. How did a good person suddenly fall sick and medicine couldn't cure her? And the doctor who treated her also passed away not long after she passed away. Chapter 342. The next morning, the Yin family's courtyard still had remnants of yesterday's celebration. This was the first time the Yin family sat in the dining room so neatly, waiting for the newlyweds to wake up. Because Su Wan's body wasn't well, they woke up a bit late. By the time the two changed into new clothes and walked into the dining room, breakfast was served. Ah! The moment Yao Ruofing saw Su Wan, she suddenly exclaimed. Her face paled and the chopsticks in her hands fell to the ground. Ruofing! Yao Baiqian scolded in a low voice. Yao Baiqian was surprised to see this face too, but she had been through a lot. She wouldn't lose her composure like Yao Ruofing. Plus, in the past, Yin Minji went to Su Wan's side courtyard. Although after that, Yin Minji expressed that he liked shunning in Su Wan's courtyard, Yao Baiqian had already determined that Su Wan was a vixen that specialized in seducing people. Therefore, she suspected that Yin Minji was actually interested in Su Wan. Now that Su Wan had passed away, it made sense that Yin Minji married Shuo Linglong who looked like Su Wan. What's wrong? Sensing Yao Ruofing's fear, Yin Beige's gaze subconsciously darkened and he asked in a low voice. No, nothing. I just have a headache. Yao Ruofing knew that she was being rude and immediately sat back down nervously. Yu Xiu also called the kitchen servants to change a new pair of chopsticks for Yao Ruofing. At this time, Su Rui had supported Su Wan and walked in front of everyone. The three brothers of the Yin family had lost their parents when they were young. As the saying went, the eldest brother was like the father. Today was their first day of marriage, so they naturally had to serve tea to their two elder brothers and sister-in-law. The steward placed the teacup in Su Wan's hands. Su Wan walked forward and smiled at Yin Shun and Yao Baiqian. Elder brother, drink tea. Eldest brother, drink tea. Okay. Yin Shun and Yao Baiqian each took the teacup. Yao Baiqian smiled faintly at Su Wan. Linglong, you're part of the Yin family from now on. You and third brother need to live well and try to help the Yin family grow. We're all boys. If you guys have a daughter in the future, she'll be the precious daughter of the Yin family. Saying this, Yao Baiqian placed an exquisite brocade box in Su Wan's palm. This is a small gift from brother and sister-in-law. Thank you, big brother and sister-in-law. Su Wan put away Yao Baiqian's gift and then walked over to Yin Qingma and Buningshan. Second brother, drink tea. Second sister-in-law, drink tea. All right. Yin Qingma looked at Su Wan, very satisfied. Cough. Who told her to have such a beautiful dancer under her? Buningshan also happily gave Su Wan a present. It looked more expensive than Yao Baiqian's. Actually, Buningshan had been suppressed by Yao Baiqian all these years. She had been dissatisfied. Now that Su Wan had married into the Yin family, Buningshan felt that her chance had come. With Su Wan's appearance, Yao Baiqian would definitely keep a respectful distance from her. This was a good chance for her to rope in third brother and his wife. After a sumptuous breakfast, the whole family looked happy and harmonious, but in reality, undercurrents were surging. After eating breakfast, Su Wan didn't stay in the Yin family's courtyard for long. Su Rui ordered someone to drive her to Linglong Brothel. At this time, Linglong Brothel had just opened for business. Seeing the boss and lady boss come, the people in the brothel immediately surrounded them. By Yin Xue, Yen Xiuwu, and Hua Yalan. Su Wan and Su Rui spent a lot of money to nurture them. They were beautiful and talented. Of course, Su Wan didn't nurture them to make money for Linglong Brothel. Her target was naturally the Yin family. Xiuwu, how does Yin Qingma treat you? Returning to Linglong Brothel's main room, Su Wan sat on the chaise longue. Her expression immediately turned cold. Boss, Yin Qingma isn't shrewd. This subordinate is confident that I can control him, but that Buningshan, leave Buningshan to me. Su Wan smiled. Yin family's backyard is my battlefield. You guys just need to help me deal with the men of the Yin family. Saying this, Su Wan glanced at Bai Yanxue. Yanxue, in a few days, Third Master will arrange for you to perform at the general's residence. You need to remember that the general likes gentle women. You just need to make him think that you're cute and obedient. Yes. Bai Yanxue immediately nodded respectfully, hearing Su Wan's words. Su Wan glanced at Hua Yaolan again. Hua Yaolan's voice was really good and she was pretty too. She was Su Wan's biggest trump card. How's the folk song I told you to practice? Boss, I'm done. Hua Yaolan answered confidently. Hearing her words, Su Wan smiled faintly. That's good. Take good care of your voice these days. I'll have someone specially order a red dress for you. After a while, you should be able to use it. Yin family's courtyard, main room in the backyard. When Yao Ruofing came back from the dining room, she was in a bad mood. Seeing her absent-minded expression, Yin Beige waved his hand and sent the servants away. Ruofing. Yao Ruofing slowly snapped out of her trance, hearing Yin Beige's voice. Beige, what is it? Ruofing, I have something to ask you. It's about sister-in-law. Yin Beige stared at Yao Ruofing's face, his gaze sharp. Tell me, how did sister-in-law die? Ah. Yao Ruofing widened her eyes in shock, seeing that Yin Beige actually thought of Su Wan. Then she forced herself to reply calmly, sister-in-law, naturally died of illness. Who in Liao City doesn't know about this? Ha! Yin Beige sneered, hearing Yao Ruofing's words. Since the entire Liao City knows, why did you guys hide it from me? Also, why were you so afraid when you first saw Third Aunt? Yao Ruofing, what are you afraid of? As he spoke, Yin Beige forced Yao Ruofing into a corner step by step. Looking at the man's cold eyes without a trace of warmth, she was once infatuated with this pair of eyes. This pair of eyes also made her feel despair again and again. Ha, ha. Yao Ruofing suddenly sneered. She suddenly didn't feel that afraid anymore. Yin Beige, what do you think I'm afraid of? What do I have to be afraid of? Why did mother want everyone to hide sister-in-law? Don't you know? Ha, right, you lost your memory. Did you forget how you tried to violate your sister-in-law? In the end, you accidentally killed your own brother. What did you say? Yin Beige's expression suddenly changed. He grabbed Yao Ruofing's clothes tightly. You're lying. I didn't. Yao Ruofing stared at Yin Beige's face. Yin Beige, did you really forget? You did it on purpose. You purposely wanted to forget, right? Do you think you can pretend that nothing happened just because you forgot? Elder brother and sister-in-law are already dead. They're a match made in heaven. You will never get them. You won't get them, nor will you get their heart. Seeing Yin Beige's twisted face due to the pain, Yao Ruofing suddenly felt a trace of pleasure. Why am I the only one in pain? Ha, so what if I can't get your heart? At least, I'm the wife you officially married and shared the same bed with. As for you, Yin Beige, you'll never be able to get that dead woman. Chapter 343. Ever since they fought in the room that day, Yin Beige moved to the side room and didn't sleep with Yao Ruofing anymore. The two fell into a cold war and the situation didn't improve after a month. This made Yao Baiqian anxious. Ever since Yin Beiyue died, Yao Baiqian only had Yin Beige as her son. She was hoping that Yin Beige and Yao Ruofing could give her a grandson soon. Yin Beige, who hadn't completely recovered his memory, treated his mother coldly because of Su Wan's death. Seeing that she couldn't persuade him, Liao Baiqian could only go to the biggest temple in Liao City to pray to the gods and Buddha. She hoped that the Bodhisattva could bless her son and daughter-in-law. Prajna Temple was the biggest temple outside of Liao City. The child-giving Guanyin inside was the most effective bodhisattva in Liao City. When Yao Baiqian brought Jinlan to the temple, there were a lot of people inside. "Madam, look. Isn't that third madam?" Jinlan immediately saw Shunning and Su Wan at the temple entrance. Yao Baiqian looked up and saw the familiar figure. She couldn't help but be dazed for a moment. They really looked too alike. It was as if time had flowed backwards. "Sister-in-law." Su Wan also saw Yao Baiqian at this time. She immediately smiled and walked to Yao Baiqian's side, smiling faintly and greeting her. The sister-in-law immediately pulled Yao Baiqian back to reality. "Linglong, you're here to worship the Bodhisattva too." Hearing Yao Baiqian's words, Su Wan's expression darkened. Linglong has been weak since she was young. Her stomach hasn't moved even after so long. I'm worried. Ha! Yao Baiqian couldn't help but laugh hearing Su Wan's words. How long have you and Minji been married for? Why are you worried? Fangrua and Beige have been married for almost 2 years. Her stomach hasn't moved either. Yao Baiqian was puzzled. Even if the two didn't have a good relationship, they still had a normal married life. Why couldn't Fangrua get pregnant? Hearing Yao Baiqian's words, Su Wan's gaze flickered. She couldn't help but whisper in Yao Baiqian's ears, "Sister-in-law, do you know a physician Fang in Liao City? She's a female physician who specializes in treating women." "Ahem, I don't mean anything else. If Fangrua can't get pregnant, you can take her for a checkup. There are many women who can't give birth now. If there's really something wrong, you can persuade Beige to take a concubine." Yao Baiqian's expression changed slightly. Can't give birth. She had never considered this problem. She only had Beige as her only son now. If Yao Ruofang really couldn't give birth, who would carry on the family line? There are 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no descendants is the worst. Not having any children was the greatest sin of all. Some things didn't need to be too detailed or exaggerated. Su Wan believed that as long as she planted this seed in Yao Baiqian's heart, she wouldn't be able to eat and sleep in peace. She would go find Dr. Fang. After all, she was the best female doctor in the entire Liao City. Yao Baiqian, the game starts now. Let's settle the score slowly. Returning to Linglong Lu from Wisdom Temple, Su Wan hadn't even gotten off the car when the shopkeeper quickly walked over. "Lady Boss, the young marshal is here. He's upstairs." "Oh." Su Wan nodded and then let Shunning help her up to the 4th floor of Linglong Lu. This was the highest point of Linglong Lu. Right now, Yin Beige was wearing a vest and black military boots. He was leaning against the window with a wine flask in his hand. Hearing the footsteps, he indifferently turned his head. Seeing Su Wan's face, Yin Beige's gaze wavered and the wine flask in his hand almost fell to the ground. "Beige, why are you here? Hurry and sit." Su Wan pulled over a chair and smiled at the man in front of the window. "Third aunt, there's a lot of good wine and delicacies here. Do you want to try?" "No, it's okay." Yin Beige quickly shifted his gaze. "I'm just passing by. I'm just taking a look." "Oh, I see." Su Wan looked at Yin Beige and then smiled faintly. "At the end of this month, there's a performance in Linglong Lu Beige. If you have time, come and support third aunt. How about that?" At the end of the month, Yin Beige froze. His injuries had pretty much healed by the end of the month. He had been really free lately. Okay, I understand. I'll come. Third aunt, I'll be leaving first. As he spoke, Yin Beige narrowed his eyes and quickly strode away. In reality, he just happened to pass by here today. In the end, he couldn't help but walk in. Su Wan, that name. That shadow. Recently, Yin Beige would often dream. In his dreams, there were some fragmented memories. He gradually recalled Su Wan's face and the ballads she loved to sing. He recalled that winter and the charming smile of the red-clothed girl in the snow, Shui Linglong. She really looked like Su Wan. Not just her appearance. Yin Beige felt that she had a familiar aura, but Su Wan died. Everyone said that she died. Yin Beige seemed to have dreamt of the scene where she died in his arms. Therefore, maybe it was just his misconception. Just like what Yao Ruofeng said, he had lost her in this lifetime. He would never have the chance to have her or make it up to her. After Yin Beige left, Su Wan immediately ordered Shunning to call Hua Yaolan to her room. The end of the month was the best time. The time was right. Yin family's courtyard. Ever since Yao Baiqian came back from the monastery, she had been troubled. That day, she had drawn the worst lot. This made Yao Baiqian a bit flustered. Su Wan's words unknowingly echoed in her mind. Could there really be something wrong with Yao Ruofeng's body? Once she had this thought, this suspicion took root in Yao Baiqian's mind. She thought about it for a few days before finally finding an excuse to bring Yao Ruofeng to Dr. Fong for a complete checkup. The results almost made Yao Baiqian faint. Yao Ruofeng really couldn't give birth. Looking at the complicated report, Yao Ruofeng's face paled. She looked at the female doctor in disbelief. Dr. Fong, what do you mean? I really can't give birth. Yes. Dr. Fong's words were resolute. My checkup is the most authoritative in the entire Liao city. Of course, it's not that you can't give birth. I can prescribe medicine for you to nurse your body, but I can't guarantee when your body will completely recover. Maybe a year, maybe a few years. Or maybe, you won't be able to nurse your body for a lifetime. A lifetime. Yao Ruofeng's eyes rolled and she immediately fainted in Yu Xiu's arms. Second young mistress. The maids went over to help Yu Xiu support Yao Ruofeng while Yao Baiqian placed the consultation fee on Dr. Fong's desk. Doctor, prescribe the medicine. I want the best medicinal ingredients. Yao Ruofeng was Yao Baiqian's niece. Naturally, she wouldn't give up on her so easily. But for the sake of Yin family's children, maybe she should consider getting Beige a concubine. But this child's temper was getting worse and worse. Would he agree so easily? Chapter 344. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the month. It was time for Linglong Lu to perform at the end of the month. This was the busiest time of the month in Linglong Lu. The moment they opened the door in the morning, many regulars rushed in. Yin Beige naturally remembered the date Su Wan told him about. But when he walked to the street, he hesitated. Recently, Yao Baiqian had been trying to get him a concubine. To be honest, Yin Beige was really against this. Plus, because he hadn't recovered his memories yet, he didn't have the mother-son relationship with Yao Baiqian. Therefore, he had been in a bad mood these past few days. Seeing the bustling entrance of Linglong Lu, Yin Beige paused. Shui Linglong's face flashed through his mind. That face was too familiar. Just thinking about it made his heart ache. Su Wan. Just what did we go through in the past? How did you die? Why can't I remember some things? Just as Yin Beige's body stopped and his thoughts ran wild, a familiar melody suddenly floated out of Linglong Tower. The wind blew and the clouds swayed. The waves on the ocean swayed with the wind. Father was fishing and hadn't returned home yet. Mother missed him by the shore. The ethereal voice was like the sound of nature, as if it came from the distant past. It crossed time and space and once again floated by Ian Beige's ears. This is... His expression changed drastically, and he rushed in the direction of the voice like the wind. On the stage on the first floor of Linglong Lu, Hua Yalan wore a red dress and swayed her body. Her black hair scattered on her shoulders and fluttered along with her movements. Father was busy fishing and mother was thinking. Sister swayed and swayed, huff, huff. When Ian Beige arrived at Linglong Lu's hall, Hua Yalan's singing had just come to an end. Okay. Okay. The hall was filled with cheers and whistles. The red-dressed Hua Yalan smiled gently at everyone. Her gaze swept over the crowd and when her gaze landed on Ian Beige, she seemed to freeze for a moment before politely nodding at him. Ian Beige also froze. For a moment, he thought he saw Su Wan again. Her voice was really similar, her smile was really similar. Even her red dress was really similar to what she wore the day they met. Boss Shua, name your price. Miss Yalan, I'll take her. At this time, a low male voice suddenly came from the crowd. The person who spoke was also a big shot in Liao City. He was rich and overbearing, and his back was straight. Ha! Hearing the nouveau riche's voice, Su Wan and Su Rui, who were sitting on the second floor, looked at each other and smiled. Boss Huang, our Linglong Tower is a proper place of entertainment. We don't sell our bodies. Oh. The wealthy boss Huang waved his hand in disdain. 10,000. 10,000. Although the guests who came today were all rich people, there were very few who were as extravagant as him, who could spend 10,000 yuan in one go. Boss Huang, do you think my Yin family lacks that 10,000 yuan? Su Rui sneered at Boss Huang. I heard that you've just taken in your 8th concubine. I'll give you 30,000 yuan. Are you willing to sell your concubine to me? Boss Huang sneered. Humph, Boss Huang's expression turned cold. Third Master Yin, although Liao City belongs to the Yin family, it's General Yin's. I'm advising you to keep a low profile. Don't cause any trouble for the general. I'll give you 20,000 yuan. 20,000 yuan. Su Rui didn't say anything. He just narrowed his eyes and looked at Boss Huang downstairs. He was a big fish. Su Wan and he spent a lot of effort to get him to take the bait. Now, it all depended on Ian Beige. 30,000 yuan. At this time, a cold male voice rang out. Under everyone's astonished gazes, Ian Beige walked to the front of the stage step by step. Young General. Which citizen of Liao City didn't recognize the young general? Seeing that the young general had come out, everyone kept quiet. Boss Huang also stared at Ian Beige with an unfriendly expression. Young general, are you going to fight to the death with me? Although Huang Chen was just a businessman, his sister married into the governor's residence and was the governor's third wife. In terms of background, Huang Chen really wasn't afraid of the Yin family. Fight to the death. Ian Beige sneered in disdain hearing Huang Chen's words. Having lost his memory, he didn't know who Huang Chen was. He just subconsciously wanted to protect the woman behind him. She belongs to this young marshal. Whoever dares to touch her, I'll shoot him to death. Saying this, Ian Beige took out his gun without hesitation and pointed it at Huang Chen's chest. Ah! Oh my god! Young General is so cool. The hall on the first floor was filled with whispers. Su Wan couldn't help but glance at Su Rui. Hey, Third Master, look at our young general. He's so handsome. He's going to steal your limelight. Su Rui was speechless. who didn't know how to show off their love. General Su just didn't have the chance for now. Seeing Yin Beige take out his gun without hesitation, Huang Chen's expression changed. In the end, he couldn't help but laugh lowly. Young General is really young and vigorous. I was just joking with you. Why do you have to take it so seriously? Who doesn't know that your family's third madam opened Linglong Lu? Everyone here belongs to you, young General. Seeing Huang Chen's expression change so quickly, Yin Beige put away his gun and then turned to look at Hua Yalan in concern. Miss, are you okay? Hua Yalan bowed at Yin Beige. Yalan is fine. Thank you, young General. In just a morning, the news of young General saving the beauty in Linglong Lu immediately spread to Yin family's residence. Yao Baiqian froze when she found out that her son actually liked someone from Linglong Lu. Thankfully, Linglong Lu had a good reputation in Liao City. It wasn't impossible to bring the singer into the residence as a concubine. But she didn't know what that woman's character was like. Yao Baiqian hesitated before ordering Jinlan to send a message to Su Rui, telling them to go back to the residence for dinner. Su Wan and Su Rui naturally knew what Yao Baiqian was thinking. The two had prepared everything and guaranteed that Yao Baiqian would be satisfied. Night, Yin family's courtyard. After dinner, Yao Baiqian called Su Wan to her courtyard alone. As expected, she was going to ask about Hua Yalan. Su Wan was prepared. She immediately told Yao Baiqian about Hua Yalan. Hearing that her family background was clean and she was proficient in the four arts, Yao Baiqian was satisfied. Linglong, look at Beige, sister-in-law, I understand what you mean. Our Yalan also admires young General. As long as you agree, we can hold a wedding for them anytime. Hearing Su Wan's words, Yao Baiqian smiled happily. Okay. I'll get someone to prepare it right now. This might be the most harmonious time Su Wan and Yao Baiqian had interacted with each other, but this was the only time. Coming out of Yao Baiqian's courtyard, Su Wan looked at the empty courtyard entrance and her expression changed. Where's Su Rui? If there was nothing special, he wouldn't leave unless, Su Wan. Right at this time, in the pitch-black night, a familiar figure slowly walked towards Su Wan. Step by step, he brought with him a stifling feeling of oppression. Chapter 345. Su Wan. Yin Beige called Su Wan's name again. Right now, he was in front of Su Wan. His sharp and handsome face carried a complicated expression that had never been seen before. Beige? Su Wan calmly looked at the man in front of her and furrowed her brows suspiciously. Are you calling me? What's wrong? You didn't. Before Su Wan could finish, Yin Beige forced her into a corner. He grabbed her right wrist and then pulled up her sleeves without hesitation. There was an old scar on Su Wan's fair arm. It was really small, but it couldn't escape Yin Beige's sharp and serious gaze. Ha! Yin Beige suddenly stared at the scar and laughed. As he laughed, tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Xiao Wan, it's great that you're still alive. Saying this, Yin Beige subconsciously let go of Su Wan's wrist. He lifted his arms, wanting to hug her just like how he had dreamt of countless nights. Hugging her tightly, telling her that he loved her and that he couldn't live without her. A gust of cold wind blew past and Yin Beige's eyes blurred. The next moment, he saw Yin Minji's figure. Beige, what do you want to do? Su Rui half-hugged Su Wan and lifted his brows, looking coldly at Yin Beige. Third uncle. Yin Beige was a bit surprised seeing that Su Rui came back so quickly. But his gaze quickly darkened. Third uncle, you did it. You saved Xiao Wan, right? I don't know what you're talking about. Su Rui tightened his grip on Su Wan's arm and declared his authority to Yin Beige. This is my wife, Shuel Linglong. Su Wan is already dead. Although Linglong looks like her, but, don't lie to me. Yin Beige immediately lost control and interrupted Su Rui. The wound on her hand was left behind when she was studying abroad in Great Britain to save me. I'll never forget that scar. Plus, Yin Beige's tone sank. I just came back from Yin family's graveyard. Su Wan's coffin didn't have a corpse at all. There were only clothes and stones. Su Rui sneered. So what? So what if you have 1,000, 10,000 reasons to prove that she is Su Wan? I have a marriage certificate. We bowed to heaven and earth and entered the bridal room. She's my official wife. Yin Beige, don't tell me you're going to steal your third aunt. Yin Beige was silent. His gaze focused on Su Wan's face again. Xiao Wan, tell me why. Why did you fake your death? Why did she have to marry third uncle? Why don't you acknowledge me? Young Marshal, I understand what you're saying, but I really don't know what you mean when you put them together. Su Wan looked at Yin Beige indifferently. Then she held her forehead with a pale face. Minji, I feel dizzy. Let's go home. While talking, Su Wan had already leaned into Su Rui's embrace. All right, wife, let's go home. Su Rui gently caressed Su Wan's hair and glanced at Yin Beige. We're going back. Beige, I won't argue with you about this. I hope that you can always remember that this woman is my woman. She's your elder. Saying this, Su Rui turned around and left with Su Wan in his arms. Seeing the two gradually getting further away, Yin Beige clenched his fists and punched the brick wall by the side, leaving streaks of blood on the wall. Young Marshal, you, at this time, a figure anxiously dodged. Seeing the back of Yin Beige's bleeding hand, the owner of the figure immediately became anxious. Young Marshal, don't move. This servant will find gauze to bandage your wound right now. Heh, you've seen enough. Heard enough. You're willing to come out now. Yin Beige looked at Jinlan, who suddenly appeared, and glared at her. Shouldn't you go back and report to my mother? This servant, Before Jinlan could react, Yin Beige grabbed her by the neck. Her thin and weak body was slowly lifted up against the wall. Jinlan had difficulty breathing and her face was starting to turn purple. Tell me. How much do you know? What's going on with Su Wan's illness? I don't know, Jinlan struggled to answer, her tone stuttering. She didn't dare to say it. She couldn't say it. Because if she didn't say it, she still had a chance to live. If she said it, the First Madam could kill her at any time. Seeing that Jinlan wasn't willing to let go, Yin Beige couldn't help but tighten his grip. Are you going to tell me or not? Jinlan, whose consciousness was starting to fade, shook her head instinctively. She was gambling. Gambling that Yin Beige was more humane than Yao Baiqian. Bang! Jinlan's body was thrown to the ground. She gasped for air. She had just survived a disaster, and her back was covered in sweat at this moment. Don't tell anyone about what happened tonight or else I won't forgive you. Saying this, Yin Beige coldly turned to leave. Jinlan subconsciously rubbed her neck as she watched him leave. The general recovered his memory. Anne. Shuel Linglong was Su Wan. How could she still be alive? Just what did the third master know? Many questions flashed through Jinlan's mind. Sister Jinlan. Sister Jinlan. Madam is calling you. At this time, a call came from the courtyard. Jinlan immediately stood up and patted the dust off her body while pulling her collar. She wanted to cover the strangulation marks on her neck. Even if Yin Beige didn't warn her, she wouldn't say a word about what happened tonight. Beige had indeed recovered his memory. When he was in Linglong Floor, Hua Yaolan reminded him of his first encounter with Su Wan. After he left Linglong Floor, he unknowingly went to Yin family's cemetery. Beige sat in front of Su Wan and Bei's graves for a long time. I still have one last wish. After I'm gone, bury me beside Beiyu, let me accompany him, this is. I owe him this. In the cemetery, Beige suddenly recalled Su Wan's last wish. Also, the brocade pouch. That brocade pouch. Beige recalled the brocade pouch sewn into his clothes. When he was wandering outside, he changed all of his clothes. At that time, he had forgotten everything, but he instinctively felt that the brocade pouch was important, so he kept it on him. He took out the brocade pouch and opened it. There were some fragrances inside. Perhaps it had been soaked in seawater, but it didn't have the original smell anymore. Between the fragrances, there was a small lock of black hair wrapped around by a thin red string. This was Su Wan's hair. Tied the knot with her, never to be separated. In that instant, Beige suddenly remembered everything. All of his memories surged into his mind. The two of them knew each other. It was a freak combination of factors. His misunderstanding, elder brother's death, Su Wan's illness, everything flashed through Beige's mind like a movie. In the end, Shui Linglong's face froze in front of him. Su Wan. Beige thought that he understood and was familiar with Su Wan enough so he definitely wouldn't mistake her aura. If Shui Linglong was Su Wan, then who was buried in the cemetery? Thinking of this, Beige's gaze turned serious. He felt like he was going crazy, but at that moment, he really didn't want to think about anything. He urgently wanted to prove that Su Wan was still alive. She was definitely still alive. Therefore, Beige dug Su Wan's grave. This might have been the craziest thing he had ever done in his life. But the moment he opened the coffin and saw the stone inside, Beige didn't care that he was covered in mud and laughed loudly. Chapter 346. On the way back to the courtyard, Su Rui had Su Wan lie comfortably on his knees. He stared at the night outside the carriage. What are you thinking about? Su Wan suddenly asked in a low voice. Su Rui lowered his eyes and looked at her gently. Wife, you said that Beige recovered his memory in advance. Will he still marry Hua Yaolan? Everything was ready now. They were just waiting for something. He will. Su Wan answered softly. The more he knew the truth, the more Beige would take the initiative to attack. He would definitely marry Hua Yaolan because he was the male lead. You couldn't use a normal person's way of thinking to guess the male lead and female lead's thoughts. If you got serious with them, you'd lose. Just as Su Wan predicted, a few days later, Yao Baiqian sent someone to Linglong Lu to propose marriage. The news of the young general marrying Hua Yaolan immediately spread throughout the streets and alleys of Liao City. The young general marrying a concubine was a joyous event in the entire Liao City. Today, the entire Yin family was in a joyous mood. In this huge residence, only Yao Ruofeng was unhappy about this. Her and Beige's relationship was already bad. Now that the doctor said that she couldn't give birth, even her aunt wanted to take a concubine for Beige. Thinking that she, the eldest miss of the Yao family, would have to share a husband with a singer from a dance house, Yao Ruofeng clenched her teeth in anger. Dr. Fong said that she couldn't give birth, so she really couldn't. Yao Ruofeng had secretly asked the Yao family to go to the capital to find the best doctor for her. Yin family's joyous occasion invited the entire city to a banquet. Su Wan and Su Rui naturally arrived early in the morning. After the banquet started, Su Rui and his two brothers greeted the other upper-class nobles in Liao City. Beige wore a tang suit and held a cup of wine. Who knew when he arrived next to Su Wan? Third aunt, thank you for carefully choosing a concubine for me. Let me toast you. Beige didn't wait for Su Wan to speak and drank all of the wine in his cup. Then he poured himself another cup and looked at Su Wan in a daze. I know your body isn't good. Let me toast you. Don't drink it. I'll drink it for you. Saying this, Beige drained the cup of wine. After finishing the second glass, he stubbornly wanted to pour a third. You're drunk. Su Wan slowly got up and stopped him. Beige, you're drunk. Stop drinking. Are you concerned about me? Beige looked up and stared at Su Wan stubbornly. Su Wan smiled indifferently. Of course I'm concerned about you. I'm your third aunt, aren't I? I care about you just like I care about Bai Yi and Bai Yen. Saying this, Su Wan looked at Bei, who had been paying attention to them. Bai, your second brother is drunk. Come over and watch him. Yes, third aunt. Hearing Su Wan's words, Bei quickly walked over and supported Beige. He whispered in his ears, second brother, there are many guests here today. Don't mess around. Many people are waiting for you to toast them. Toast? Isn't it just a happy wedding and a happy marriage? Ha! Beige smiled in disdain and poured himself another cup of wine. Let's go. Come with me to greet the guests. The banquet continued until midnight. When the music ended and people dispersed, the groom was already unconscious. Yao Baiqian thought that her son was too happy, so she immediately sent someone to support Beige back to the bridal room. Although Hua Yalan was born in a lowly family, she had learned all sorts of etiquette in Su Wan's Linglong Lu. After entering the Yin family, she was able to gain Yao Baiqian's favor. This made Yao Ruofing jealous. What hurt her the most was that 2 months after Hua Yalan entered the family, she was diagnosed as pregnant. All of a sudden, Madame Hua's status in the Yin family rose. Beige was surprised by Hua Yalan's pregnancy. Other than the night of their wedding when he was too drunk and had sex with Hua Yalan, he hadn't touched her in the 2 months since they got married. However, she had her own child after all. Beige was looking forward to his first unborn child as well. Yin family, backyard. Crackle. Yao Ruofing Ruo smashed all the teacups on her table onto the floor. Her pretty face was filled with hatred. Why? Why could Hua Yalan get pregnant with Beige's child but she couldn't? Even the doctor from the capital couldn't tell what was wrong with her. He just kept telling her to take medicine, and more medicine. Yao Ruofing felt like she was about to become a medicine jar. Even the best perfume couldn't cover the thick smell of medicine on her. Young madam, don't worry. What if you hurt your body? Seeing that Yao Ruofing was losing her mind, Yu Xiu couldn't help but persuade that madam is just pregnant. We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl. Plus, it's hard to say if she can give birth. Young madam, don't panic. Hearing Yu Xiu's words, Yao Ruofing froze. Then her eyes flashed. Right, she couldn't let her give birth. Otherwise, her position in the Yin family would be in danger. Aunt, don't blame me for being ruthless. Back then, you also used many methods to deal with uncle's concubines. I'm just imitating and learning from you. While Yao Ruofing was planning to create an accident for Hua Yalan, in the backyard, Yao Baiqian was holding a teacup with a calm expression. Behind her, Shenlong had her head lowered and was respectfully waiting for Yao Baiqian's orders. Shenlong. This servant is here. Send people to keep a close eye on second madam and Yu Xiu. Nothing can happen to Beige's child. Do you understand? This servant understands. This servant knows what to do. Shenlong nodded hard while Yao Baiqian slowly put down the teacup with narrowed eyes. If she had watched Yao Fang grow up, she would have known what she was going to do the moment she raised her brows. Perhaps she had really spoiled her too much in the past. Yao Fang seemed to have forgotten that this wasn't the Yao family, but the Yin family. In the Yin family, nothing was allowed to escape her, Yao Baiqian's control. While Yao Baiqian and Yao Ruofeng were on guard against each other, Su Wan and Su Rui were busy with other things. Counting the days, the real female lead, Guangli, should be arriving at Liao City soon. Su Wan had arranged for Hua Yaolan to stay in the Yin residence. Su Wan didn't have any thoughts about Guangli. She just didn't want the female lead to enter the Yin family again and ruin her plan. Therefore, Su Wan and Su Rui discussed it and sent people to guard near the city gates. If they found Guangli, they would think of a way to bring her to Third Master Yin's courtyard. By then, they would naturally have a way to make her obedient and stay there. But things didn't go smoothly because Su Rui's people didn't see Guangli outside or at the city gates. According to the original plot, the female lead should have reached Liao City by now. Then, where did Guangli go? In reality, Guangli had indeed reached Liao City by now. In the original plot, Guangli walked and stopped along the way, finally arriving at Liao City at the end of October. But this time, she arrived at Liao City at the beginning of August. Chapter 347. Early in the morning, it was misty. Guangli came out of her small room and stretched her arms in the yard. A new day had begun. It had been 2 months since she entered Liao City. Right now, she was working in a tavern and hadn't found a chance to sneak into the Yin family. Xiao Li. At this time, the door to another room in the courtyard was pushed open, and a round-faced girl quickly walked out. Seeing Guangli in the courtyard, the girl mysteriously pulled her to her side. "Little Li, haven't you always wanted to work for the Yin family?" "Yeah." Guangli's gaze brightened. "Sister Yaya, you have a way." Lin Yaya smiled faintly when she saw Guangli's bright eyes. "I have a cousin who is a head maid in the Yin family. Her master recently wanted to hire a maid who can cook to help out in the courtyard. You were the first one I thought of, right? If I knew how to cook, I would have gone myself. Unfortunately, I don't have the talent." Guangli was overjoyed hearing Lin Yaya's words. This was great. After waiting for 2 months, she finally had this chance. She was going to the Yin family. She was going to see that man and ask him why he killed the villagers in the fishing village so cruelly. A month later. Su Wan didn't expect to see Guangli in the Yin family's courtyard under such a complicated situation. Right now, Hua Yaolan was lying on her bed with a pale face. Yao Baiqian sat by her bed with a concerned expression. This morning, Hua Yaolan drank a bowl of soup like usual and planned on resting. Who knew that not long after, she would feel unbearable pain in her stomach. By the time the doctor arrived, she couldn't keep the child in her stomach. Not only did this infuriate Yao Baiqian, but it also alerted the commander-in-chief in the commander-in-chief's residence. Yin Shun had already given the order to investigate this thoroughly and get rid of the black sheep in the Yin family's backyard. After a preliminary investigation, the first suspect was a maid who had just arrived in the Yin family, Guangli. Su Wan rushed over after hearing the news and comforted Hua Yaolan. Then she glanced at the pale-faced Guangli kneeling on the ground. Then she looked at Yao Baiqian and asked, "Sister-in-law, what's going on?" Sigh. Yao Baiqian sighed. The doctor said that someone drugged Yao Lan's soup and the new girl made it herself. Really? Su Wan froze and looked at Guangli on the ground. This girl doesn't look familiar. She's new, right? Yes. Hearing Su Wan's question, Zhenlan immediately replied respectfully, "Third madam, this is the servant girl that this servant recruited to serve Madame Hua's meals." This servant saw that she had a clean background and was honest, so this servant recruited her with ease. I didn't think that something like this would happen in just a month. A new servant girl has the guts to poison her master? Isn't she a little too daring? Who gave her the courage to do that? Before the person arrived, his voice arrived first. Buningshan walked over wearing a gorgeous dress. While walking, she smiled at Su Wan and Yao Baiqian. Sister-in-law, I don't think it's that simple. As she spoke, Buningshan came to Guang Li's side and kicked her with her high heels. Guang Li fell to the ground from Buningshan's kick. She furrowed her brows and looked angrily at the woman in front of her. As expected, no one in the Yin family was good. Oh, you have quite a personality. Seeing the resentment in Guang Li's eyes, Buningshan lifted her brows. Tell me. Who ordered you to do this? If you don't tell the truth, you'll suffer. No one ordered me to do this. I was framed. I didn't poison her. Guang Li climbed up from the ground and looked stubbornly at Yao Baiqian. This servant is just a new servant girl. I don't have any grudges with Madame Hua. Why would I harm her? The Yin family's courtyard is so big. The person who wants to harm her is probably someone else. Presumptuous. Yao Baiqian's gaze turned cold hearing Guang Li's words. There's irrefutable evidence and you still won't admit it. You're trying to mislead us. Zhenlan, slap her face. Yes. Zhenlan quickly walked over to Guang Li and ordered the two maids to press down Guang Li's hands and stabilize her body. Then she started slapping her without hesitation. Slap, slap, slap. Su Wan felt pain hearing the sounds. Zhenlan wasn't someone to be trifled with. She was ruthless. Not long later, both sides of Guang Li's face were swollen and the corners of her lips were bloodstained. She wanted to say something but couldn't. Seeing Zhenlan's actions, Buningshan smiled in disdain and then casually found a place to sit down. Yao Baiqian was planning on forcing a confession out of her. She didn't even give this girl a chance to defend herself. She was in such a hurry to find a scapegoat. The truth was clear. Humph. Who doesn't know about Yin family's matters? Yao Ruofeng was really smart. She actually thought of using a new maid. This time, Yao Baiqian did make a mistake. She thought that it would be foolproof if Zhenlan found some new maids to take care of Hua Yaolan. She didn't expect to fall into Yao Ruofeng's trap. Now that something like this happened, Yao Baiqian had to take care of Yin family's face and Yao family's face. Actually, she hated them a long time ago, right? However, he still had to protect Yao Ruofeng, that useless thing, in front of everyone. Thinking of this, Buningshan's mood was strangely happy. Humph. So what if Yin Beige's child is gone? She couldn't wait for her boss's bloodline to end. At this moment, Guang Li was struggling on the ground. She wanted to say something, but she could no longer speak. Just at this time, there was a sudden rush of footsteps. Yin Beige in military uniform strode in. Mother, how's Yaolan? Yin Beige asked about Hua Yaolan's health the moment he entered. Yao Baiqian's gaze retracted hearing Yin Beige's question. Hua Yaolan, who had been holding in her emotions for a long time, instantly cried. Young General. I'm sorry. I couldn't protect our child. Let me die. I want to die with our child. Saying this, Hua Yaolan struggled to hit her head against the railing of the bed. Su Wan was speechless. What a good girl. Her acting skills were really good too. Yaolan, what are you doing? Yao Baiqian jumped in fright. Su Wan, who was sitting on the chair closest to the bed, immediately stood up to stop Hua Yaolan. But someone was faster than her. Yin Beige walked forward and wrapped his arms tightly around Hua Yalan. Enough. Don't do anything rash. Your health is important. Our child will be born in the future. Young General, finally hearing Yin Beige's words, Hua Yalan buried herself in his arms with tears in her eyes. Young General, you have to take revenge for our unborn child. Who's so heartless to not even let a child go? Young General, our child died so tragically. Hua Yalan's voice was ethereal to begin with. Now that she was acting with both emotions and voice, anyone who heard it would cry. As expected, hearing Hua Yalan's complaint, Yin Beige's cold gaze grew even colder. Mother, have you found the culprit? It's that lowly maid. Yao Baiqian pointed at Guangli with a dark expression. Guangli was forced to kneel on the ground. She shook her head furiously, her gaze fixated on Yin Beige. At this moment, she hoped that Yin Beige could remember her. After all, she saved his life. Unfortunately. Chapter 348. You did it. Yin Beige walked in front of Guangli step by step. He bent down and lifted her chin with his large hand. Sniff. Guangli opened her mouth but she could only make muffled sounds. Zhenlan had a good grasp of technique and strength. It wasn't too light nor too heavy, but it was just enough to make her unable to defend herself. Guangli could only stare at Yin Beige's face that was inches away from her. She stared at the man's thick brows and deep eyes. She blinked her eyes, and her big, clear eyes were already misty. Yin Beige, you really don't recognize me anymore. There was a moment of absent-mindedness. Yin Beige looked into the eyes of the person in front of him and felt like time and space were in a mess. So familiar. Beige. Yao Baiqian slowly stood up and said coldly, who knows if this girl is a spy sent by another army. It's better to deal with her as soon as possible. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Spy. Yin Beige's gaze turned solemn. Recently, the Northeast had been at war and the capital wasn't peaceful either. Who knew when Liao City would be affected by the flames of war? At the thought of this, his heart sank. Yin Beige let go of his hand and slowly straightened himself. He looked at Guangli without any warmth in his gaze. Drag her away. Mess, ah. Before Yin Beige could finish, Hua Yalan's scream rang behind him. Linglong. At this time, Buningshan, who was watching from the side, also hurriedly stood up. She looked behind Yin Beige and called out anxiously. Linglong. Yin Beige suddenly turned around to see Su Wan lying on the chair with a pale face. Little, third aunt. Xiao Wan. Thankfully, Yin Beige hadn't completely lost his composure. He hurried over and hugged Su Wan. I'll take third aunt to see a doctor. Beige. Yao Baiqian wanted to stop her son, but Yin Beige had already left in a hurry, leaving everyone to see his slender back. Watching him leave, Yao Baiqian's gaze changed slightly while Buningshan revealed a playful smile. Yes, she almost forgot that Linglong's face was really similar to the one who died in the side courtyard. Yin Beige carried Su Wan and hurriedly walked out of the Yin family's courtyard. The moment he reached the door, he paused. Su Rui smiled and stood at the door. Behind him, Shunning had already lifted the curtains. Beige, just leave Linglong to me. Thank you for your hard work. Before Yin Beige could react, Su Rui tyrannically snatched Su Wan from his arms. 3. Yin Beige opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but Su Rui waved at him. I'll send her to the car first. We'll talk later. Saying this, Su Rui carefully carried Su Wan onto the carriage. Then he instructed Shunning in a low voice before getting off the carriage at ease. He ordered the carriage driver to drive the carriage back to the side courtyard. Seeing the familiar carriage leave, Su Rui turned back to look at Beige. I have something to tell you. What? Beige looked at Su Rui in surprise. Ever since Su Wan's identity was revealed, the two men hadn't been on good terms. This time, Su Rui taking the initiative to talk to him was out of Beige's expectations. Give Guangli to me and I'll tell you a secret. Guangli. Beige's expression changed. How did third uncle know Guangli? In Beige's memory, he only knew Guangli. She was the fisherman's daughter who saved his life in the fishing village. Seeing Beige's strange reaction, Su Rui's gaze changed. Did you forget who Guangli is? She's my savior. Third uncle, do you know her? Beige looked at Su Rui, the suspicion still in his eyes. Ha! Who in the family doesn't know her? Su Rui looked at Beige teasingly. Don't tell me you don't know who she is. Beige's expression changed. Could it be that, that's right. That scapegoat. Su Rui walked towards Beige. Haven't you always wanted to know about Su Wan? Give me Guangli and I'll tell you everything. Beige hesitated. Third uncle, why must you want Guangli? You have a family now. If you dare to do anything to her, I won't let you off. Even if you're my uncle, I won't show mercy. Ha! Su Rui couldn't help but laugh mockingly. From the beginning to the end, you're the only one who hurt her. Su Rui's words made Beige speechless. Feeling Su Rui's disdain and the coldness in his eyes, Beige was silent for a while. In the end, he nodded softly. Okay. I'll have someone send Guangli to your courtyard. Third uncle, what do you know? Tell me. I know a lot. Su Rui patted Beige's shoulder. Su Wan died the same way Hua Yalan's child disappeared. She's just using the same trick. As for that person, you should know who she is. Poisoned. Beige clenched his fists tightly. Actually, he suspected that Yao Ruofeng had something to do with Su Wan's death. But he hadn't found any evidence yet. After all, Su Wan's incident had happened too long ago. Dr. Sun was dead and there was no evidence. Beige couldn't investigate what happened back then anymore. But Hua Yalan's incident had just happened. If Yao Ruofeng really did it, he should be able to find evidence. Thinking of this, Beige's gaze turned complicated. He recalled what Su Wan had said to him in the past. She said that he had always been hurting her when he treated her well. At that time, Beige couldn't understand the meaning behind Su Wan's words, but he understood everything now. Did Su Wan already know that Yao Ruofeng was harming her? Did she already know that she was poisoned? But she didn't tell him and chose to believe his third uncle. Su Wan, do I, Beige, really not have any credibility in your heart? Thinking of this, Beige felt his heart ache. One wrong step after another was wrong. He couldn't turn back from his mistakes. That night, Guangli was sent to Su Rui's courtyard by Lu Anbua, who was covered in injuries. Third master, I've taken care of her wounds. Lu Anbua seemed to be really worried when he handed Guangli over to Su Rui. He couldn't help but remind him. Seeing Deputy Commander Lu's anxious expression, Su Rui couldn't help but smile faintly. He almost forgot about this male supporting character who fell in love with the female lead at first sight. Right. Back then, Lu Anbua brought people to pick Beige up from the fishing village. At that time, he had seen Guangli in the fishing village and fell in love with this pure and kind fisherwoman at first sight. Deputy Commander Lu, if you're really worried, you're welcome to visit her anytime. Hearing Su Rui's words, Lu Anbua froze and then smiled awkwardly. Third master, you must be joking. I've done what the young general told me to do. I'll be taking my leave first. Saying this, Lu Anbo turned and left on his horse. Watching the man and horse disappear into the night, Su Rui handed the unconscious Guangli to the housekeeper. Arrange for her to stay in the guest room and find 2 maids to serve her first. Chapter 349. Although Guangli had been executed, the Yin family's courtyard wasn't peaceful that night. In Yao Ruofeng's room. Kneel. After Yao Baiqian ordered Junlan to close the door tightly, she immediately scolded with a sullen face. Yao Ruofeng and Yu Xiu's faces were pale. Hearing Yao Baiqian's words, Yu Xiu immediately knelt, trembling. Meanwhile, Yao Ruofeng looked pitifully at Yao Baiqian with reddened eyes. Mother. Aunt. Ruofeng. Ruofeng knows her wrongs. Seeing that Yao Ruofeng wasn't willing to kneel, Yao Baiqian raised her hand high and slapped Yao Ruofeng's face. Yao Ruofeng held her painful face and looked at Yao Baiqian in disbelief. Aunt, you hit me. What did I do wrong? You still don't know what you did wrong. Hearing Yao Ruofeng's words, Yao Baiqian's expression turned even colder. I can tolerate your anger and jealousy. I originally planned to let you manage Yin family's backyard, but what about you? What are you doing? You dared to harm Yin family's descendant. Yao Baiqian was speechless at Yao Ruofeng's stupidity. I learned this from you, aunt. Hearing Yao Baiqian's accusation, Yao Ruofeng put down her hand and sneered. Didn't aunt treat the yin-yangs in the residence like this back then? If you can do it, why can't I do it? Moreover, aren't you the best at poisoning, aunt? Other than the concubines in the residence, there's also Su Wan. Su Wan, she. Bang! The tightly shut door was kicked open. In the dark night, Yin Beige's face was so dark that it seemed like it could drip water at any time. Yao Ruofeng, what did you just say? Say it again. Beige. Yao Ruofeng was dumbfounded seeing Yin Beige's sudden appearance. At this time, Yao Baiqian's gaze flickered and she slapped Yao Ruofeng again. Bastard! It's fine if you don't change, but you dare to talk nonsense. I'm talking nonsense. Yao Ruofeng's face was red and swollen. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Yao Baiqian. Aunt, no, I should call you mother. I should have understood from the day I married Yin family. You just didn't want Yin family to fall into someone else's hands. Therefore, you schemed for Beige to marry me. I thought you loved me back then. Yao Baiqian, you're so selfish. Shut up. Yao Baiqian glared at Yao Ruofeng when she saw that Yao Ruofeng dared to call her name directly. She raised her hand and was about to hit her, but Yao Ruofeng dodged it. Since Beige heard it, I might as well make it clear. Yao Ruofeng looked at Yin Beige with a strange expression. Beige, do you know? Back then, Aunt didn't plan on letting you marry Su Wan. Ever since she agreed to your marriage, she had been scheming against Su Wan. She purposely had uncle transfer you away and then changed the bride on the day of the wedding, threatening the Su family. Even Brother Beiyue had been tricked and used by her. Later, Brother Beiyue died, but Aunt blamed everything on Su Wan. She wanted Su Wan to die with her son, so she put slow-acting poison in Su Wan's food. She even bribed all the doctors in the residence. Mother. Yin Beige's figure swayed a bit. He looked at Yao Baiqian in disbelief. Mother, is what Ruofeng said true? Thinking of how they missed each other, his brother's death, and the pain Su Wan suffered on the sickbed, Yin Beige's heart ached. Mother, how can you be so heartless? Brother and I are both your sons. Have you never thought about our happiness? Happiness? Yao Baiqian lifted her brows coldly. The truth proves that Su Wan is a fickle woman. Mother didn't want you to marry her for your own good. Mother did everything for you and the Yin family. No. Yin Beige gradually retreated, looking at Yao Baiqian like he was looking at a stranger. You didn't do it for us. You did it for yourself. One's own selfishness. Harming others, harming oneself. The next day, Yin family's courtyard. When Guangli woke up, she realized she was in a completely unfamiliar place. The decorations here were similar to Yin family's. You're awake. A gentle female voice rang in her ears. Guangli slowly sat up and saw Su Wan sitting at the square table nearby. Third madam. Though they'd only met once, Guangli had a deep impression of Su Wan because she gave her a really familiar feeling as if they'd known each other for many years. Su Wan smiled faintly. Don't call me that. If you like, you can call me Linglong. Linglong. Guangli looked at Su Wan strangely. You saved me. Why did you save me? Yesterday, Guangli thought she was dead for sure. An old friend asked me to save you. I'll slowly tell you in the future. Just stay here and recuperate. Su Wan was talking to Guangli when Shunning quickly walked in. Third madam, second madam is here. She's waiting for you in the front hall. Emin, I got it. Su Wan responded and slowly stood up. Guangli, rest first. I'll come see you later. Ha. Oh. Guangli dazedly watched Su Wan leave, her mind a bit confused. But third Madam Linglong seemed like a good person. So there were good people in the Yin family too. At this time, in the front hall, Buningshan was leisurely drinking tea while Shunning helped Su Wan out. Seeing that Su Wan's complexion was a bit better, Buningshan couldn't help but stand up. She walked over and grabbed Su Wan's wrist. Linglong, are you okay? I've been worried about you since I went back yesterday. So, I came to see you early this morning after I finished my work at home. I've brought a top-grade blood swallow. I'll ask the kitchen to cook it for you later. Thank you for your concern, second madam. Hearing Buningshan's words, Su Wan immediately pretended to be touched and looked at her gratefully. We're family. Why are you being so polite? The world is so bad right now. We need to be united. Saying this, Buningshan purposely sighed. Look at elder brother and sister-in-law. They live in the old residence and guard the general's residence. They also have hundreds of thousands of soldiers and horses under them. In this chaotic situation, they can only gain a foothold if they have military power. Look at our family. Sigh. Our Ching Mo only knows how to earn money. All the money he earns is given to elder brother for the army's provisions. But even after spending a lot of money, he still doesn't have a single soldier under him. As for Mingyi, sigh. Buningshan sighed a few times. Su Wan's expression kept changing. Second madam, you're right. Mingyi wanted to go to the army to train, but elder brother said he wasn't made for it. He gave him some money and told him to come back and manage Linglong House with me. Everyone says that a man's ambition is to travel far and wide. What future do you think he and I have by guarding a dance house? If the flames of war really spread to Liao City one day, what's the point of our little dance house earning so much money? Linglong, I knew you're smart. Buningshan immediately held her hands tightly. Unfortunately, elder brother covers the sky in Liao City. It's really hard for us to get a job. That person in elder brother's family isn't easy to deal with. Linglong, you're the smartest. What do you think we should do? What to do? Su Wan hesitated for a moment. Second madam, it's not like there's no way. It just depends on whether or not you're willing to cooperate with me. Linglong, you have a way. Hearing Su Wan's words, Bu Ningxian's eyes brightened. Su Wan lowered her voice and whispered a few words in Bu Ningxian's ears. Bu Ningxian hesitated after hearing Su Wan's suggestion. Of course, this is just my idea. Second madam, think about it.